So I just want to say good morning. Welcome to the hopefully to the new virtual process this year. We had to transition this process pretty quickly. So this is the third week. Good morning, Arun. How are you this morning? Welcome. What I like to do before we get started, I'm Pat Holiday, of course, with the City of Tallahassee. So welcome. I'd like for us to first of all introduce ourselves. We'll start with our team leaders. Dr. Nika Fields, if you could introduce yourself. And this is the same introduction we'll give when you guys introduce yourselves to the agency. So if you could give your name, the organization that you represent, and how long and how many years you've been a CHSP grant reviewer. And we'll start with Dr. Fields.
Good morning, I'm Nika Fields. I'm the director of the Office of Counseling Services at FAMU. I'm a psychologist, and I've been with CHP doing this for a year before CHP started. And so that'll be, how many years is CHP? 22? You're muted, Pat.
Oh, 22 to 23 years.
Okay, so 22 to 23 years.
Long time. Before CHSP existed.
Yes.
Welcome. Lauren, please introduce yourself, Lauren.
Good morning. My name is Lauren Kelly Manders. Thanks, Pat. Thanks, everybody, for being here. I am with Florida State University's Office of Sponsored Research Administration as a grants officer. And this is my second year working with the CHSP review process.
Nancy, you want to introduce yourself, Nancy?
Yes, I am Nancy O'Farrell. I am retired, and I'm also the volunteer executive director of NAMI Tallahassee, the local affiliate of the National Alliance on Mental Illness. And I think this is my 5th year as a team member, I think.
Thank you. I imagine your association is very busy these days.
Sadly, yes.
Yeah, very sadly. How about you, Miss Shannon?
I'm Miss Shannon Roberts. I'm a community advocate here. It's like my 30 years. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we may have to, Virginia may have to help you because your sound is gargled. What does she need to do, Virginia?
I would have you sign out and sign back in. There's nothing I can do about your sound unless you call in.
So Shannon, can you, if you see a red, you'll see a red circle with an X bottom. You'll probably have to do what I did earlier, Shannon. Exit the meeting and then rejoin. Okay. Thank you. With that, we'll keep on introducing ourselves while she rejoins us. Sometimes that happens. You have to just rejoin the meeting. Go ahead, Miss Rachel.
And I represent Career Source Capital Region. There I served as the center manager for the last 12 years. And I believe this is my 3rd rotation with the CHSP grant review. So I appreciate you all having me today. Thank you.
Thank you. Arun.
The Big Bend Homeless Coalition, and this is my 2nd year on the side, and probably my 4th or so time on, will be on the other side of it. So I don't know which side I like better. I think it's less stress to be on this side, maybe.
So you actually have an official accounting specialist on this team, so with and then you of course you have your timekeeper, and so we'll soon. Paul may or may not join us. I hadn't heard from him as far as not participating, so we'll see as time goes on. Some people's schedule sometimes is pulling them out of out of the process. With that, I want to kind of talk about how just a couple highlights for the day regarding the format. It's a very short window of time. Oh, before I get started though, let Virginia give you she wants to give you a brief tutorial regarding utilization of the WebEx program. Virginia.
Okay, I'll talk fast so I don't eat up too much of y'all's time. So if you, I would highly suggest you do grid view. That way you can see all of your fellow volunteers, Miss Pat, and of course the rest of us are gonna have our cameras off, but then also the agencies. So if you scroll to the top right-hand side of your computer, you'll see underneath connected, which you should have a green dot and a microphone that's moving. There are 2 white circles. If you click on the one to the left, you'll see it gives you 3 options. If you will please select the one that has 4 dots, and that is grid view. If you click on that, you'll see it drastically changes. Okay, cool. Oh, Arun, well, no, you're connected. Just you're doing voice through phone, correct? Okay. All right, so it'll let you do that. Okay, so then if you scroll down to the bottom of WebEx towards your toolbar, you'll see a bunch of dots that poke up. I'm sorry, y'all, it's too early for me. A bunch of circles that pop up. So the first one is a microphone. If majority of you should have a big red circle, that means you are muted. If it is gray, that means you are not muted. I'm going to try throughout the day because there's a lot of feedback on this platform. So I'm going to try throughout the day. If you're not talking, please please just stay muted. If I see your mouth moving, I know we all tend to forget we're muted. I'm going to try to unmute you. And if you unmute yourself and you go back muted, we're just in a mute war, but I promise you we'll get you unmuted. The next one is your camera. So when we go on breaks and we go on lunch break, I'll ask that you leave your program running so that way you don't have any issues logging back in. But if you would just mute and turn your camera off, that way you can have some privacy. The next button should be a person with 3 lines. That's your participant pan. I leave that open because we're going to have people coming and going from the room. So please be patient with us. We're going to try. Anita and I will get moved as fast as we can when agencies come in. And that way, too, we can see who has a lot of feedback going on. The next button I believe you all have is a chat button. If you're a texter, you know what this is. Just please be cautious. If you do use the chat, it's automatically on everyone. So if there's an agency in the room and you're talking bad about an agency or whatever the case be, they're going to get it. So we tend to, Anita and I use that panel just that way if there's any communication issues, if I sound like I'm underwater, if somebody's having a lot of feedback, or if you just have a basic question, that's what we've been using it for. Let's see. And the next option you all have is a horizontal 3-dotted button, I believe. That button, if you are having any kind of bandwidth issues, which WebEx does take a lot of bandwidth for voice. So Arun's already got this down pat because it looks like he's audio connected. So this will allow you to do audio connect, which keeps video on your laptop, desktop, however you're signed on, but it carries the voice through your phone, which helps with your bandwidth on this program. Sometimes it's pretty crystal clear. It just depends. You just kind of have to keep the phone close to your face so that way you can kind of sound clear. And then, of course, the next button is the uh-oh button. That's the exit button. So if you accidentally hit that and the room is locked, I'll go ahead and unlock it so you can get back in. But other than that, unless y'all have any questions, that's really it for just a quick tutorial.
Let's see who's on the Shannon. You have to unmute yourself.
Oh, I thought I did a few minutes
I
ago.
just unmuted you.
Oh, been practicing.
Hold on. Okay, there you go.
I was practicing, sorry.
No, you're perfectly fine.
All right, what was the one you said about using the audio through the phone?
Okay, so if you click on your option before exit, which is the horizontal 3 dots.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I don't know what order it is, but you'll see one that has a phone and it says audio connection. If you click on that, of course it says call me or call in. You want to call me and you enter your phone number. That is on your end. It does not get registered and recorded on my end. So whatever phone number you enter in, you'll just hit call me. I don't know what number pops up, to be honest with you, but it's WebEx. And then from there, you can still have your video, but you'll also have your phone capability.
Okay, I don't see that option. It's fine.
How are you signed in?
On my computer.
Okay.
I'm gonna talk about them.
Okay.
This is fine.
Okay.
Shannon, you're okay, so go ahead and mute yourself. And I can tell you, I'm the biggest. You forget to mute and then unmute, so just kind of be aware that you
Okay.
can that when you're not speaking, to go ahead and mute yourselves, because that way we can reduce that background noises that we're hearing.
Okay,
Yes, Shannon.
and I found it, what she said about the audio.
Oh, good. Okay. Are you gonna try to use that feature, Shannon? Or just want to know about it? Okay, let's go ahead and get started regarding the format for today. 20 minutes is not a long time, okay? And so keep that in mind. The main, as far as this new format is concerned, one thing with Dr. Fields, Ms. Anika, if you kind of keep a watch eye on your members, so that, you know, kind of making sure that you kind of process, making sure folks have an opportunity to ask their questions and get their responses. And then, of course, Lauren, you'll kind of keep us on time for the day. I think one of the most important points I've noticed, the first question you go ahead and ask every agency, they've been, just like you were notified, they were notified that one of the first questions that they'll respond to will be how their organization is affected its ability to implement its programs, specifically the programs we're looking at and the agency itself. But you don't want to spend no more than, you want to get a general review, but not all of the detailed specifics. So if that person's spoken more than 5 minutes on that topic, it's too long, because you don't want to eat up the entire 20 minutes with one question. You just mainly want to know if they can still operate their programs, and if not, what are the limitations that have been caused, and if so, when will they be full operational? As you're looking at a 2-year funding period cycle right now to determine what programs get funded and what level they get funded with as well. So Lauren, it's going to be very important that if once a question is answered, then we need to move to the next question. So therefore, if someone goes on too long, you will have to stop and say, I'm sorry, but we have to stop. We thank you for your response. We've clearly gotten an answer to our question, and now we want to move on, because you won't have time for 2 or 3 people to answer the same question. For example, they have submitted questions to you earlier. So Dr. Fields, it's going to be important for you, as each agency gets on board, your members have submitted questions. All of you got the questions from your group that were submitted regarding the agencies on your team. So I think it's going to be important too to look at prioritization of those questions, making sure that the most important questions are answered. That's going to be a really responsibility of yourself, Dr. Fields, as well as Lauren, as far as managing the group's process. So making sure that the most important questions are asked first. Others, if they're just, would be nice to know, but they don't really have direct implications on the funding decision, you don't want to spend much time on that at all. So go ahead and make sure that the first questions, first you're going to deal with the COVID response. So, and then you'll go and deal with the other questions submitted by the group. Hopefully we'll have some time left over, so that if you have additional questions as a committee members, then you can ask those questions, okay? Again, just so we can look at the format of the meeting that's been working well, is that the team leader would introduce themselves first, and in the same way that we did earlier, by your name, organization you represent, longevity with CHSP, and then once you introduce yourself, then let the other members introduce themselves, okay, on your team. And the last person to introduce themselves will be Lauren, because she's pretty much the person that will, and Lauren will basically, the clock will start you guys got a little flexibility. So if we've, each agency were given the opportunity to submit 5 people that could participate from their organization with your meeting today. So if you like, briefly, they can introduce themselves, their name, role with that organization, but very briefly. Or you could say, Lauren, that once you guys have introduced yourselves, Lauren has introduced herself, she could say, well, the clock starts now for those 20 minutes. And that would include their introductions. And I say that too, because, and it may be the best way, you guys have a little flexibility in your day than other people. But one of the things that can happen too, because I've had to stop organizations again, sometimes when people introduce themselves, and I don't blame them, there's an automatic mode people get into where they start presenting to you. So once that's crossing the line. If you are gonna let them introduce, that's basically your name, your role, bam, and that's it. But as far as them talking to you about the agency, about the program, then that's going into presentation time. So we got to be careful with that as well. The main reason why, of course, as you know, is equity. We always treat everyone exactly the same. That's it, so that we can maintain fairness in this process. Any questions that you guys have? Yes, Miss Nancy.
First of all, I have recused myself from one agency because of some personal connections I have with a board member. So during that agency's presentation, should I just sit here and be quiet? Should I turn off my camera? What should I do? How should I behave?
Nancy's is kind of a superficial, and this is a small town, so she knows someone on the board of directors. I just say low key, you don't not participate, and if Dr. Fields has any comment about it, but her conflict was so minimum, and Nancy is a long-term representative of the committee, and Nancy, the bottom line, and Nancy's going to do what's in the best interest of the community, not about relationships. And so I would just stay low key, but probably most of us going to know someone from the agency. It's basically impossible, particularly when you start being a community volunteer. As we know, the same people are the same people always in the community that are working in the community, right? And so it's going to be almost impossible, if not impossible, not for people not to know each other in some capacity. The main point is that we're as a committee, you represent the interests of this community, regardless of any relationship. And I'm one of those people, I could care less about a relationship when I'm trying to make decisions on behalf of the community. I'm very clear about what my responsibilities are and where my loyalty lays, and that's going to always be the community's best interest.
Okay, I have
Yeah, Nancy,
one more
I know
question.
you, and I know you're objective. So, and I know some people too. So, you know, we
I'm
just
sure
need to
you
be
do.
objectives. That's all.
And I have one other question. In past years, we've had a written evaluation form that we fill out and turn in, talk about at the end and blah, blah. What is the evaluation process with this? I mean, I've got nothing to check off boxes or anything.
No, you do, Nancy, you got your assessment guide that was sent to you. That is our instrument. I think everybody received the assessment guides, right?
Yeah.
They were attached to an email. If not, we'll get that to you, Nancy. Sala.
But we'll just be sending it electronically, I guess is my point.
Oh, that's your point. Yeah, you will send it back to us electronically after the second day, after deliberation, just like you normally do when we're doing this live. The only difference is that you'll send it back through us electronically. Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you, Nancy.
And
Any
could,
other questions or concern, Ms. Lauren?
Do we give a 5-minute warning when we're close to the 20-minute mark? Would you like?
Yeah, absolutely. So Lauren will give a 5-minute warning when, at the time and then she will terminate them. And as soon as, and then when they're almost at that end, Lauren, if it seems long-winded, you're gonna have to shut it off or just say, hey, you got 1 minute to wrap this up or 30 seconds to wrap this up if you need to, okay?
Okay,
So,
thank
yeah.
you.
Ms. Dr. Fields?
I just asked people who submitted questions, you know, what's the most important question for you to get answered. So if you just ask that question, please, because I can't decipher what's important to you.
Is that okay? So does everybody have their questions that they gave? When you give your questions, make sure you don't suck up the whole energy on your team, meaning that make sure that you if a question is associated with another question, lump them together. If not, ask your question, then let another member on your team ask their question so that we can make sure that everybody has an opportunity, okay? If someone has already asked the question that you intended to ask, don't ask it again, okay? But let's say, for example, that's one of your team members is asking the same question that you have. That person responds, but they did not give all of the information you need, then you can go ahead and piggyback and say, well, can you also respond to this element of that question as well, this whatever that element is specifically, okay? And that way you kind of maximize. This is when the application is critically important. As you can see with folks having a 20-minute spiel. Normally, of course, just to kind of go back and refresh, particularly for Shannon, is that each agency is given a minimum of 1 hour. So in the normal world, they had 30 minutes to present their programs and then 10 minutes to present their budget information. And then you had 20 minutes for questions and answers. And now we basically have condensed this into 20 minutes. I want you to be aware, though, in regards to the application or quality of the application, CHSP's deadline was extended by, Anita, help me out with the timeline, but by almost a month, right, Anita? She may not be on right now, but we gave them additional agencies an additional month to respond to the CHSP application. So we kept on changing the submission deadline. And part of that was obviously we knew even before we started we had our request for proposal workshops in February. Of course, we didn't know the crisis was about to hit us. But once the crisis did impact us, that's when we actually extended the deadline. We gave the organizations opportunity that they could go back into their applications and modify them as needed. And when they had that opportunity to modify the application, they knew at that point that they would not have a chance to do a verbal presentation to you. So I want you to keep that in mind. We tried to streamline the application. I think Lauren, was you on any of the committees? Lauren was on that committee.
Yes.
Yeah. What do you think about it, the application comparatively?
Well, I was pretty happy with the change.
Yeah, we significantly streamlined the application. Last year, we had 2 process improvement committees. And they really worked on that application, reduced it so it didn't have that second year supplemental information no longer required. So that was very, very, very important as well. If also Sala or Virginia, if you could send a assessment guide to Rachel as well. If you could send that to Rachel. Again, she would like to have that. Thank you so much, to Rachel.
We have 3 minutes.
We're ready to move. We're going to let the agency. We're going to let the first agency come on in. Let's see who's our first agency. Where's Town? So Boys Town is the first agency. I see that a couple of you have submitted questions, so let's get ready to start inviting them in, and we will get started by 9 a.m. on as planned, okay?
Can you all see me?
Yes, I can.
Okay.
And hear you pretty clear.
Something happened. I couldn't see you all.
Yeah, every now and then you hit the wrong thing. I mean, you gotta be careful because these touchscreen computers, man, they're fickle. You just wave the wrong way, and all of a sudden,
that's right.
Where did it go?
I don't know, but it was all black. I could hear you. I couldn't see.
Okay, we're on, and I see Boys Town is here, so welcome aboard, guys, and great to see you again. All right, we'll get started with our morning. Thank you.
How's that? How was the audio? Can you hear us fine?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Good morning. My name is Anika Fields, and I am chair of this team. I am the director of the Counseling Services Department at FAMU, and I've been on the Citizen Review team with CHSP for about 22 years. I'm going to let the other members introduce themselves. Remember to unmute yourself.
I am Nancy O'Farrell. I am retired, but I'm also serving as the volunteer executive director of NAMI Tallahassee, the National Alliance on Mental Illness. Pardon me. And this is my 5th year as a team member.
Good morning. My name is Shonda Davis. I am representing Capital Medical Society, the We Care Network, and this is my 2nd year being a part of this CHSP review team.
Good morning. My name is Shannon Roberts, and I'm a community advocate, and this is my 3rd year being on the review team.
Good morning. My name is Rachel Oliver. I am the center manager at Career Source Capital Region, and this is my 3rd rotation.
Please unmute yourself. They can't hear you.
Can you hear me now? Yes. Okay. I'm Arun Dhanarajan with Big Bend Homeless Coalition, and I'm the Director of Finance there, and this will be my 2nd time on the Community Review Team with CHSP.
Good morning. My name is Lauren Kelly Manders. I'm with FSU's Office of Sponsored Research Administration. I'm a grants officer there, and this is my 2nd opportunity participating with CHSP. I'm going to be your timekeeper today, and just want to ask that everybody introduce themselves very briefly with their name and the title of their position in the organization, and that will begin our 20 minutes of question and answer time.
Good morning. I'm Marcus Lampkin. I'm the executive director here at Boys Town. Good morning. My name is Desmond Creighton, director of Family Home Program.
Good morning. My name is Sarah Soray, and I'm the program support coordinator. Good morning. I'm Atria Francis, director of care coordination service. Good morning. I'm Margaret Harris. I'm the director of development for Boys Town.
And my name is Matt Jarvis. I'm the finance officer here at Boys Town.
And it's a question that everyone got, and it is, how has COVID-19 affected the implementation of your program?
You want short answers or you want long ones?
Well, you only have 20 minutes, a little less than 20 minutes now, so give me the short part of it.
Okay. Well, it has tremendously affected our programs in a way that not so much that it disrupted our services, but it's our ability to provide the services. Because of all of the restrictions and restraints we were under, increase in staff, time spending with kids. So that's added expenses to us. but additional supports we had to make sure that were in place. As an agency, we had to ensure that they were there. It didn't. The quality of our services weren't affected because of what we do every day to help maintain the safety and security of our kids and making sure that the welfare of them is met. That hasn't changed, but the ability to effectively do our jobs has some restraints. But we pulled down with different resources, talked with different supports and providers in our local area and also across the national agencies to see how we could have some additional supports come in. But it has put a strain on us, but we, by the grace of God, we've sustained and maintained and got through it. Now, if there's any particular point that you all want to understand in regards to that general synopsis, I'm happy to share that.
I think that's good enough. Thank you very much. I'm going to ask the team if you have questions. You can now ask your questions.
Okay. That would be me. I do have a question regarding the makeup of your board. What kinds of efforts you might be making to diversify your board racially, since you have many more Black clients than white and a mostly white board. That kind of caught my attention.
Yes, ma'am. Great question. We made that has been on the forefront of our thinking now for the last 2 to 3 years. Unfortunately, within the last year, we had 2 minorities roll off our board, which decreased that representation. But our efforts going forward is to continue to target that population and make sure that they are inclusive in our decision when we bring them aboard. So that is on the forefront of our thinking.
I have a question. You asked for an increase in funding, and I would just like to know if you could give me a fiscal explanation for that in terms of what would the funding be for? How much would it be for each of the things that you're asking for? What's increasing?
Sure, no problem. This is Matt Jarvis, the finance officer. In the 2018-2020 cycle, we requested actually the same amount that we're requesting this particular year. The amount that we were awarded ended up being a couple $1,000s less than the ask. The makeup of the ask is the same. It's made up of basically the occupancy and specific assistance to youth is kind of how we categorize it here at Boys Town. And it's essentially what it costs to run a home and to provide services to the youth that are in the home. And we have that number kind of pegged at 41,000 and some change. And that was what we asked for 2 years ago. And it was just the CHSB made the decision to award us slightly less than what we asked for. So we're basically asking for the same amount that we did previously. It's not necessarily an increase on our part.
Okay. Any other questions? I have some more. Go on.
I do have
Nancy.
one more.
Go on.
Just out of curiosity, why do you have 58 of 70 clients in an unknown zip code?
We can answer that. Our clients, we serve a population. We serve some population from other areas of the county when they can't place kids that are hard to place. We have placement agreements with other agencies, but the primary representation of our campus is the makeup of our campus is at one point or another is more than half of our campuses from this area. So we service about 80% of our kids are from this area, but we do accept certain kids throughout the year from other areas. But what we found over the years, those kids that are hard to place in those other areas become citizens of this county. They remain in this area. So once they come to the area, they become Leon County citizens and they remain.
Well, I get that, but that's not really my question. My question is, why do you not capture that information? I mean, is it just not something that you ask people what zip code they live in, or because what's your process there is really what I'm interested in.
I'm trying to understand exactly. You said capture that?
Yes, there's a part of the application where you have a breakdown of your clients as to zip code.
Right.
And 58 out of the 70 clients that you're talking about, you list as unknown zip code. So I'm just interested in your intake process. I mean, is that just not information that you ask folks what their address is?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Because a lot of times the kids who are coming to our program are sheltered for the first time. However, a lot of that information the PI doesn't have in the beginning. So sometimes that information is missed, but it's usually from the area where they're coming from. But when a kid is with us for a longer time period of time, their zip code sometimes changes. But we do want to, definitely pay attention to get that information when we're able to.
Okay, thank you.
I noticed that you didn't have any volunteers listed on the application, and I was just curious, is there a reason for you not to have volunteers just because of the agency, or you just didn't get any?
No, ma'am,
I'm just
that is
curious.
definitely an omission. If that wasn't captured, we particularly have a volunteer coordinator who helps coordinate volunteers throughout the year. We have a list of several volunteers that volunteer for our organization on an annual basis, and we're happy to share that listing with you. We capture that information, and if that's not there and included, that is definitely an omission. We have numerous volunteers that serves us.
Okay. Typically, how many do you normally have? Just just a number. You don't have to give me the actual number, but how many do you normally have a year?
Well, we have.
It's going to be hundreds. I mean, we have a partnership with FSU, and they come and do academic mentoring and do things with the kids. We have several faith-based groups that come in and will do, barbecues, or they'll come bring, slides and do
Birthday
things on
buddies.
campus, birthday buddies. We have
All right, gotcha.
Campus, so there's hundreds.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Other questions from the team? No other questions from the team? Okay. Lauren, we have how many minutes left?
We have 10 minutes and 41 seconds.
Okay. So I'll just say to you all that since we don't have any more questions on this end, if there's something that you want to tell us or let us know about your program that you haven't had a chance to maybe state on your application, then you have some minutes to do that since we don't have any questions.
No, I think we've shared definitely a lot of our history. We've been in this area now for over 37 years now, serving this community. We've enjoyed our partnership with the city and throughout these services to help support those efforts. We have a lot of partners in the community that tries to help support this initiative, but our main priority is to continue with the quality of services that we're known for. And I just want to emphasize too, if not, and I know it hasn't changed, we are still the only evidence-based residential group home program in the state of Florida. So that's how much we value our staff training, our ability to provide the utmost quality of services for our clients, because we know this is a tough population to serve. So we try to make sure that we have enough of the resources in place in order to do that. And by receiving these funds, it helps. It doesn't, provide, the type of supports that, sustainable, that is on a year-end basis, but it is a valuable resource that helps us to do our initiative. So it's very important to what we do in our work. And we appreciate that partnership that you all have provided in us throughout that time.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. I'm going to ask again from the team, any more questions? Yes. Okay.
Of the budget that was submitted, do you anticipate any of those costs being reallocated because of COVID? Things changing, you know, if you're unable to travel, I see there's costs for like the upkeep of a van or something like that. Will that change?
No, what we've been seeing over the last few months is that where we might be recognizing a bit of a savings in one category, we're showing an increase in, you know, another category. So just for instance, we budget for meals out as well as groceries. Given that the restaurants have been closed, we haven't been utilizing the meals out budget as much, but of course the groceries budget has spiked. So, and we put these budgets together prior to this whole pandemic. So obviously we couldn't see into the future to understand that this was coming, but you know, the costs we anticipate we'll absorb all of these costs and probably more than what we've budgeted here. And you know, it's fair to say we actually, when we were putting this budget together for the 2020 cycle for our fiscal year, there was a request that came down from the family teachers to increase this budget. Just, you know, organizationally, it's been static for several years, and excuse me, they kind of asked me to look into seeing if we could try to increase in some of the places because they feel like it's not meeting, you know, all the needs necessarily. It requires them to be very efficient, which, you know, we appreciate because this is usually donor dollars that we're talking about. But, you know, as it is, we will definitely be spending the entire amount we requested, if not more than, in the 2020 cycle. And potentially, you know, since this is a 2-year ask, there would be potentially an increase in our funding. So this might just help offset the costs and not actually cover it 100%. So that's a long answer to your question, but we have the time, right?
I was looking for. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay. Well, I want to thank you all. There's nothing else from us, so I thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
We appreciate it.
Okay.
Take care.
Thanks.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, so
Ethernet, and that's been my life, like my lifesaver. Okay, we will go ahead and get started, and Dr. Anika Fields will start the meeting.
Good morning. I'm sorry you can't see me. I can see you all. My name is Anika Fields. I'm the director of the Counseling Center at Florida A&M University, and I've been on the Citizens Review team with CHSP for about 22 years. I'm going to let the other team members introduce themselves.
I am Nancy O'Farrell. I am retired.
Nancy, excuse me, just one second, housekeeping. Donald and Suzanne, if you could just put yourselves on mute while the other persons are speaking, okay? Just if you could, that would cut down on the background. Donald?
I'm trying to do that, Pat. I know how to do it in Zoom. I'm not sure if I know how to do it here.
Donald, I got you. And if I see you moving your mouth, I'll unmute it. I got you.
Virginia, can you do the same for me? Because I had it on the phone, but I don't think it's on my computer. But if you'll just mute me also.
Okay. Yes, gotcha.
Okay, my name is Nancy O'Farrell. I am retired, but I'm also the volunteer executive director for NAMI Tallahassee, the National Alliance on Mental Illness. And this is my 5th year as a team member.
Hi, I'm Arun Dhanarajan. I'm with the Big Bend Homeless Coalition as the Director of Finance, and this will be my 2nd time on the CHSP review team.
Good morning. My name is Rachel Oliver. I am the Career Center Manager for Career Source Capital Region, and this is my third rotation.
Good morning. My name is Shannon Roberts, and I'm a community advocate. This is my third year on the team.
Good morning. My name is Sean Davis. I am with Capital Medical Society We Care Network. This is my second year on the review team.
Good morning. My name is Lauren Kelly Manders. I'm with FSU's Office of Small Administration. This is my second year at the CHSP review team. If you would go ahead and introduce yourselves very briefly and the title within your organization, then we'll go ahead and start our 20 minutes of question and answer.
I wasn't able to hear what you were saying.
If you would briefly introduce yourself and your title and your organization, then we'll go ahead and start 20 minutes of question and answer.
My name is Donald Parks. I have been Executive Director at Good News Outreach since July 22nd of last year. I'm a retired higher education professional with 35 years experience in that field. I represent Good News Outreach.
Good morning. I'm Suzanne. I work with Donald as CFO of Good News Outreach.
Unmute yourself, Dr. Fields, please.
Sorry, I was muted. Mr. Parks, are there any other people that need to be introduced?
No, evidently Daryl and Joe are not logged in.
Okay, we'll start then.
I just logged in. I was able to. This is Daryl.
Introduce yourself, Daryl. What's your role?
Hi, my name is Daryl Jacquette. I'm the Director of Housing for Maryland Oaks Crossing.
Okay. I'm going to ask the first question, and that question is, how has COVID-19 affected your ability to implement your program or to serve your clients?
It has impacted us in two significant ways. One is revenue collection. It's hard to say for sure, but we have $23,000, $23,250 in outstanding rents. We would have anticipated having around 11,000. And so we have had, and that's a result of two factors. One is some of the clients, actually relatively few of the clients have been negatively impacted by COVID-19, but I think there's uncertainty with them. The second thing is the governor's moratorium on evictions has prevented us from evicting two residents who should be evicted for other reasons. They were chronically behind on their rent, and one of them is probably engaging in borderline criminal activities, but there is no discretion in the governor's moratorium, so we've had to carry them. So the first impact of COVID-19 has been financial in nature. It has also impacted our wraparound services. The FSU Chapman Program for Community Health has been a longtime volunteer. They provide tutoring. So that tutoring has been put on hold, and we're now trying to bring that online. We have monthly activities also with the FSU program, the NOLMED program, which is pre-med students. They do monthly social activities for us, and they help with our monthly food pantry. We have responded to these challenges in the following ways. One, we have tried to enforce the no gatherings of 10 plus people, and that's been challenging for us, but I think we've got a handle on it. We had to call in law enforcement a time or two. Daryl has provided regular email and print COVID-19 updates to residents. We have provided mask and hand sanitizers. We have provided ongoing resident education. Some of the children actually did not know how to wash their hands, at least according to the COVID-19 standards. We have removed the basketball goals on the playground because of our concern about infection there. We've taped off the playground and posted signs. We have, instead of the monthly food pantry where residents gather, we have done door-to-door grocery delivery for them. And we've done all of this with Daryl providing leadership and our resident advisory council providing guidance to that. We have also been able to provide some rent assistance through ECHO, which is our partner agency here. Residents that have been able to confirm that their rent delinquency is directly related to COVID-19 have received between $500 and $600 for rent assistance. We are conducting a needs assessment with ECHO and the RAC, and we are about to launch our summer enrichment program in conjunction with Sable Palms Elementary School. We have also been one of the pilot agencies partnering with Second Harvest of the Big Bend for their summer kids feeding program. And
Okay.
so
I think we got a gist of it. Just one question more. Has it affected the number of clients that you normally have? Has it affected the number? Okay, thank you. Team, you have questions? If you do, please unmute yourselves.
Lauren, I have a question. I noticed that the increase of the amount requested was about 240% over last year. Can you explain a little bit more about that?
Well, the guts of the program includes the property management. It also includes programs. So in order to implement those programs, it requires staffing. We have made a request for a program and volunteer coordinator. 40% of that has been assigned to this program, to Maryland Oaks, and we're also spreading that against our other programs. Suzanne, would you like to chime in on that?
Where is coming in is the salaries that we need to be able to run the program efficiently.
Their best practices involve disaggregation of the duties of property manager and program delivery. And in the past, we've had one person fulfilling both of those roles. It is almost impossible to do a good job at both, partly because of the amount of work required. We have to do the property management effectively because we can't keep the program open without addressing maintenance issues and rent collections. But the function of the housing manager, in Daryl's case, he still provides programming, but his function is different from the program. The program person really needs to be someone somewhat independent of the duties of collecting rent. We're trying to put together a model program, Lauren, and we have a really strong program now, but to get to the impact we want, which is long-term impact on on residents becoming self-sufficient, that requires a little bit more a professional approach to programming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Unmute yourself, Dr. Fields.
I'm sorry. I don't look like I'm mute.
I unmuted you. Oh, there you go. Unmute yourself.
All right. There we are. Can you hear me now? Yes? Okay, good. On the outcome measurement table, it seems that the information for this year was put in instead of your outcome from last year. I'm just wondering if you could just speak briefly on your outcome results from last year.
That is a question that we may have had an error in our application, for which I apologize. This is my first year. The outcomes from last year, quite honestly, I cannot probably give you the detail that you want. Somebody is handing me a note from the side here. We served 116 families last year. I cannot provide the level of data and assessment that I would like in there, because what we really want to do in assessment is, instead of inputs, we want better outcomes. And that's the in terms of how students are performing in school related to students who are not in this program. And to really do that in depth requires a professional needs assessment, which we're about to launch in the next 2 weeks. So I apologize, but I probably, Dr. Fields, can't provide you the level of data that you would like, but we are serving 116 residents. We are providing counseling to them when they're in danger of eviction. I think we're doing an outstanding job in terms of property management. And we also provide wraparound services, but it's a different, in my background in higher education, it's a different animal to provide genuine outcome measures as opposed to the inputs. We provide lots of good services, but we don't have the best handle on what the results are in the lives of our clients.
Okay, so you can't tell me whether you saw any type of improvement or anything?
We saw an improvement in terms of their ability to stay housed and out of homelessness. We have data on the participation in the programs we offer, such as the NOLMED tutoring, but it's not as strong as we would like for it to be.
Okay.
So with the data that I could provide you, I have to be honest, is more how people have participated. I cannot link that in the way that I would like to in terms of how that has resulted in academic performance in school or people moving on to self-sufficiency in housing.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Questions from the team?
A quick question. It's on the finance. You have 42,000 in miscellaneous, and that was in the description was bank charges. Is that mortgage interest? Is that what that is?
That is mortgage interest, and it is not paid for by and large with CHSP, but it is indeed the mortgage on the property, okay, which is an essential cost of doing business for us. Suzanne, do you want to follow up on that?
You keep taking all of my thunder, Donald. You keep answering it perfectly on.
Okay. Thank you.
I noticed back when you're giving your goals and objectives, that's on Form 1, Section 2, number 2, you have about 20 statements there. And I was wondering if some of those were goals and some of those were objectives, or are all of those goals?
This is on the Maryland Oaks application.
Yes.
Somebody bring that to me. So if you could just give me about 30 seconds, I'll address those specifically. Thank you. And Dr. Fields, would you mind repeating your question?
Yeah, I'm looking at Form 1, Section 2, Question 2, and it asks for all 20 of those were goals, or if some of those were objectives under a particular goal.
Okay, so the question, I want to make sure concisely state the agency's currently goals and objectives. Okay, to be a nonprofit employment of choice is a goal. To retain, develop, and hire qualified staff is an objective. To address the needs of, there are some of both.
Okay, so could you just tell me what the goals are?
Okay, so of course, this is the agency's current goals. This is not confined to Maryland Oaks. And I think that was what we were asked to do, the agency goals. So goals specific for Maryland Oaks would be to address the needs of income-challenged families, providing a safe, high-quality, and affordable permanent housing community, supportive housing community. To complete a needs assessment would be, I think, a goal. To facilitate an environment in which families can develop and achieve long-term self-sufficiency is one of our primary goals. Develop a plan for potential replacement or redevelopment. That is a goal. We want to make sure that we sustain and even increase capacity at Maryland Oaks. The next one is for Mercy House.
I'm getting it.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Questions from the team? No other questions from the team? Okay. So, Mr. Parks, do you have anything that you would want us to know that you think is critical for us to know as a team when we go to do our deliberations? Anything that you want to point out?
Yeah, several things. One is when we wrote our report, we based it largely on reviewers' comments from the last cycle. And one of those comments had to do with diversity on the board. And that included diversity in terms of skill set, gender, and race. Again, I started, my first day of employment was July 22nd of last year. At that point, we had 6 board members. We have 12 now and expecting to receive an affirmative on an offer we just made. Our first priority was skill set, and that skill set had to do with the financial viability of Good News Outreach, which was the second overarching comment from 2 years ago. We have included 2 certified public accountants. We have included a person who is well respected in the community in terms of insurance, which is a major expense for us. We have reduced our overall debt by 12% in the last 10 months. We have 0 payables beyond 30 days. Is that a true statement, Suzanne? We had issues with past due payables 10 months ago. We have no issues with that. So we're moving in a very strong direction in terms of the viability of our organization. We have completed a strategic plan. We have a mantra is sustainability and then scalability. And in terms of sustainability, it has been really nothing short of miraculous what has happened in the last 10 months. Our projected goal for fundraising at this moment would be $36,000 for this year. We're at $64,000. So we have really done, and I don't take the credit for it. I view it as being providential and a great team we've put together. Our financial situation is dramatically better. We're addressing deferred maintenance issues at Maryland Oaks. You might imagine that with 51 mobile home units, it requires a bit of maintenance and repairs. So we have a capital budget, which was lacking in the past. We have 3 slots remaining. We have reasonably good diversity. We're evenly split between men and women on the board. We have only 2 African Americans. I think we can do a better job. We had a 3rd person that I recruited that had a change of employment. The outstanding offer that we've made is to an African American woman with roughly 18 years of experience in human services, well known in the community. And our remaining 2 slots are very strategic, but so the board is much better off. Our finances are dramatically better. All of those have to do with sustainability. Am I on track for your question, Dr. Fields?
Yes, you're on track.
Okay. The next thing we want to do is we want to provide services in a way that maximizes our impact on the city of Tallahassee and funding. And we do this by sticking to what Good News Outreach does particularly well. We have a rather unique program at Maryland Oaks with individual units. It's not high rises, it's not multiple. Each family has their own little piece of real estate, with a yard and an individual unit. And we've done this in collaboration. What we don't do particularly well is we don't have professional case management services. So strategically, December 1st, we co-located with Echo Outreach Ministries. They have 3 professional case managers with a social work background. We're working tongue and groove with them to do a really professional job of assessing the needs of the residents. We realize that we can provide programs, but if it's not programs that have been developed with the support and advice of the community, they're not going to be that effective. And so for us to go out and hire 3 case managers is completely beyond any, finances that we'd be able to do. So we're leveraging resources of other agencies. We're working with Oasis Church. We're working with, Oasis Center for Family. Try that again. Oasis Center for Women. We're working in conjunction with Lively Tech to offer vocational training for our adult residents. And I could go on. We have, a number of strategic partnerships. So that has to do with capacity building. We have our land at Maryland Oaks reevaluated through a PUD, and we can, instead of having 51 units with a capacity of roughly 125 to 130 residents, if we're going to be able to do what we intend to long range, we have a capacity for 85 units instead of 51. So we believe if all goes well, and that's a big thing, things don't always go the way we plan, we can probably have capacity for somewhere around 220 residents. So we have a program that does a very good job of providing housing, affordable housing for folks. We have some elements of what will be a really good program of wraparound services, but over the next two.
Don't want to interrupt. We just have 1 minute left, so just wrap up your thoughts.
Okay, I think what we have is a solid program with a few changes, most specifically the addition of a program and volunteer coordinator. We can create a program and are creating a program that will be a shining light for the city of Tallahassee and deliver folks, not just giving them a hand up, but a handout of multi-generational poverty.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. That was good information.
Thank you.
And just thank you for being here today. We appreciate it. You have a good rest of the day.
Thanks for serving.
Well, good morning to everyone. My name is Anika Fields, and I am the team captain. I am a psychologist at FAMU. I'm the director of the counseling center there, and I've been with the CRT process with CHSP for almost 22 years.
Good morning. Thank you.
Morning. Gonna let the rest of the team introduce themselves. Team.
Good morning. My name is Rachel Oliver. I am the center manager for CareerSource Capital Region, and I've been a part of the CRT team for 3 rotations now.
Please unmute yourself.
I am with Capital Medical Society, the We Care Network. This is my 2nd year with the review team.
And Roberts, I'm a community advocate. This is my 3rd year with the team.
I apologize, everybody. My electricity just shut off and kicked me off the meeting, so I'm back. I am Nancy O'Farrell. I'm a retired and a community volunteer. I am a volunteer executive director with NAMI Tallahassee, and this is my 5th year on the team.
This is Arun Dhanarajan with Big Bend Homeless Coalition, and this is my 2nd time with the CHSP review team.
Good morning. My name is Lauren Kelly Manders. I'm a grants officer with FSU's Office of Sponsored Research Administration. This is my 2nd year as a CRT member with CHSP, and I'm going to be your timekeeper today. So if you would just introduce yourselves and name your role in the organization, and then we'll get started with your 20-minute Q&A.
Okay.
Participant has joined the meeting.
I'm Gina Dozier. I'm the interim CEO. I am the chief operating officer and when I'm not the interim CEO, and I've been with the agency in excess of 20 years and been participating with CHSP for as long. And I'll let the other folks introduce themselves.
Good morning, I'm Nancy Hilber. I'm the Chief Financial Officer, and I have been with CCYS for almost 8 years. And I have been with doing the United Way and CHSP process for about 22 years also.
Hi, I'm Alicia Hassler. I am the Residential Clinical Director, and I have been with CCYS for almost 6 years, and this is my first time doing a CHP presentation.
I'm Justin Barfield. I'm the Development Director. I've been with CCYS just over a year, and this is my first CHSP process.
Okay, thank you. First question is, how has COVID-19 affected your implementation of the program or your ability to serve clients or the way you serve your clients?
Okay, yeah, so we're licensed when we have a capacity for 18 youth in our shelter. with the advent of the COVID virus to enable us to practice appropriate social distancing, particularly within the client bedrooms. Some of those rooms have 3 beds and some of those bedrooms have 2 beds. So we reduced our capacity from 18 beds to 12 beds so that we would have space to only have 2 youth per bedroom, not 3. Other than that, the common areas we were able to accommodate youth with social distancing. We did modify our screening process twofold. One, we started screening for the symptomology and the risk factors, temperature, ask those kinds of things, and an established protocol when we were screening, both via telephone and when youth would show up in person. And then we also had to prioritize the youth that were being admitted to the shelter. One of the unique things and most substantial aspects of the shelter is we do a lot of prevention work, homelessness prevention, delinquency prevention. And so often the majority of the kids that we're seeing are coming here. Their parents are calling, or a school social worker is calling, law enforcement is calling, and we offer what we call a timeout program. Those calls we had to screen really carefully to see if there were options that were safe, that the child could not come into the shelter, so that we had priority for youth that were actually being picked up off the streets that were runaway or homeless, or so the most emergent needs were the kids that had higher priority for entrance into the shelter. And then we participated both with the Florida Network of Youth and Family Services and with the local COC in the city and county on the COVID task force, implementing protocols for establishing what we would do should we have a youth that tested positive or be symptomatic, and kind of our plan. So we were full on with that. And we identified, we have a separate building which was serving as our transitional living program that has a capacity of 6. So that is our quarantine or isolation unit should we have to utilize that. Fortunately, we have not had to utilize that. We have had one youth that was needing to come into the shelter that we did have tested prior to admission. And so we haven't had any youth that were affected by it, but obviously we have had to develop protocols and implement protocols and get all of the PPE and that kind of thing. Staff-wise, we have had a few staff members that have been affected. So we've had to adjust staffing, but we haven't had any staff members that have been out for extended periods of time beyond the two weeks self-isolation. No one on staff has tested positive.
Okay, thank you very much.
And I believe that our board member is on the phone, is what I'm getting a note of that. So.
Okay. Questions from the team? And please remember to unmute yourselves. Okay, I have a question, another question. What was the number that you used to calculate the average cost per client? I was trying to figure that out and couldn't.
Okay, so yeah, I saw that. And if you, I think it's in there, and I wrote down the form number. I don't have, but under the demographics, where it asks if you have any additional clarifications, we noted that the number represented in our client demographics for the program was the unduplicated number, and we used the actual number of admissions into the shelter and divided the program budget by that number. So it was actually 430, I believe. So because unduplicated doesn't capture all the services, we don't have another unit cost methodology that we presented. But for us, any admission into the shelter counts as a service. So if a youth comes in, for example, in August because they got into a fight with their parents and we deliver a service, and then they come in again in February because they ran away from home, that service is still being provided, and that's still a cost incurred, but it's a duplicated youth, so they can't be counted that second time in the unduplicated number served. So it's the program budget divided by the total number of admissions, not just the unduplicated.
Okay, program budget divided by the total number of admissions, you said?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And how much was that total number of admissions?
430, I believe it was.
430, okay. All right. Questions from the team? I'm gathering there are no questions from the team.
I have a question. This is Lauren.
Okay.
Can you tell me a little bit more about why your ask is solely personnel? Is that kind of maintaining, or this is the addition of 2.5 FTEs? Is that correct?
So it's to be to maintain our staff. I mean, but that's a critical need, and that's one of the, you know, the biggest cost to the program is because we are a 24-hour awake supervision shelter, and we have to maintain that required DCF licensing standard as a minimum of 6 to 1, and even to be more therapeutic and safe, you know, we prefer even a lower ratio than that. But that is fine.
I have a question, and I apologize if I missed this in your explanation. You probably answered it, but I don't remember. When you said you had to reduce the occupancy of your bedrooms from 18 to 12 because of social distancing, which is understandable, does that mean you reduced your people served? I mean, is that 6 fewer youth that you have in your shelter?
It reduced our capacity. Our census varies daily depending on, because we are short-term, youth are admitted, they come in and they stay varying lengths of time. So we would have to cap at 12 rather than being able to admit more than 12 youth. Now we did see a decline in some of the youth being referred. As I said, I think some of the families were adhering to the stay at home. And like I said, we were prioritizing kids that were actually on the street, or if there was a situation at home where there was immediate danger, like such as domestic violence or something like that, then we were prioritizing those kids. We did not have to turn anyone away because of capacity, just because the numbers, they did naturally decline to below that 12 level. We did
that was really my question. Did you have to turn anyone away? And you answered that. Thank you.
Any other questions from the team? Ms. Dozier, do you have something that you'd like to tell us about CCYS that would help us in terms of making our decisions, something that you feel is very crucial that we need to know?
Well, as you know, as is in the application, I believe, and as any of the folks that are familiar with our work know, one of the things about this program is that its uniqueness. I mean, we are the only crisis shelter for ages 10 to 17 for the 8-county Big Bend area. If law enforcement picks a runaway up off the street, or if parents and kids are not getting along and they need a place for a young person to go, especially with prevention, if they haven't committed a crime or anything like that, and there hasn't come to, you know, physical violence, then we're like the only place for those kids to go. So, I mean, that's really kind of the most critical thing, is that we provide that unique service for the whole Big Bend area, obviously the most of which come from Tallahassee and Leon County.
Okay. Any other questions from the team? Anything else you want to tell us, Ms. Dozier, or any of your staff?
I'll let the staff see if they, if Holly's on the phone, I would like to give her the opportunity to say anything that she would like to say, because we very much appreciate her and everyone else making this modified format work, especially on a Monday. This is our second Monday that we've done this, so that's special.
Hi, I don't know if anyone can hear me or not because I wasn't
We hear
sure
you.
what the, oh, perfect. Okay, well, good morning. My name is Holly McPhail. Thank you so much for allowing me to join the group. I'm a resident of Leon County and have been here all my life, and actually went to high school and graduated and college and all the things. I first came to know CCYS when I was 14 years old. And as a client, and then advanced in to Ms. Dozier's point about not having a place to go. I was not in trouble with the law. I was, however, a truant, you could call, and found myself in a situation where I didn't know where to go. And for me, at the age of 14, CCYS was a safe place. That I had heard about, that I had heard that kids my age and in similar circumstances that I was in could be able to access not only a safe place to sleep, but also a clean shower and food and access to resources that I very much needed. So it was part of that safety net that we talk about needing to be present in our community. And had it not been for CCYS, I'm not sure what my future trajectory would be. I did, go on to graduate and then go on to college and eventually got my degree and graduated summa cum laude, which for most people in my situation, right, I had been expelled from school at one point in my life, and I was told by lots of people that I would never amount to anything. And again, CCYS offers a place of hope. And for as an individual who had no other outlet, it was there. When I was 17, I was offered the opportunity to actually come work for CCYS as a peer advisor. And that's actually when the first time that I met Ms. Dozier back quite some time ago, back in the late 90s. And in that experience, I was able to work in the runaway shelter, which is where I had stayed previously, and had the opportunity to interact with peers my age that were dealing with very similar issues. That actually started me on a path of advocacy that has stayed with me for the remainder of my life. And I have gone on to serve this community as a parent advocate, a child advocate, and a youth services advocate. And in addition to the services that they provide in the shelter, they expand those opportunities to have access to guidance and care and support that families don't know how to access. And never mind overcoming the stigma of seeking mental health services, CCYS truly provides guidance, shelter, and support to children in crisis and their families, and it's a holistic approach. And I'm just excited to now, 20 years later, be invited to serve on the board as an advocate for this organization that truly does have a lasting impact, and I'm evidence of that. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Well, if there are no other questions from the team, are there? No? Okay. Well, I thank you all very, very much and wish you well this week.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So I will turn this directly over to Dr. Anika Fields. Thanks a lot, guys, and good to see you.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi, good morning.
I'm Anika Fields. I'm the director of the Counseling Center at Florida A&M University, and I've been with the CHSP CRT process for about 22 years. I'll let the rest of the team introduce themselves, and then we can get started.
I am Nancy O'Farrell. I am retired, but I also serve as the volunteer executive director of NAMI Tallahassee, which is the local affiliate of the National Alliance on Mental Illness. And this is my 5th year as a team member.
Good morning. My name is Rachel Oliver. I serve as the center manager for Career Source Capital Region, and this is my 3rd year.
My name is Davis. I am with Capital Medical Society, the We Care Network, and this is my second year on the review team.
Rest of the team members?
Hi, I'm Arun Dhanarajan. I'm with Big Bend Homeless Coalition as the Director of Finance, and this is my second year with the CRT team.
Who else is it? Go on, Lauren.
My name is Lauren Kelly Manders. I'm with FSU's Office of Sponsored Research Administration as a grants officer. This is my second year with the CHSP review team, and I'm going to be your timekeeper today. So if you would just briefly introduce yourselves and your roles in your organization, we'll go ahead and get started with the 20-minute question and answer session.
Good morning, everyone. I am Dr. Washelle McKendrick. I am the Executive Director here at Turnabout. Turnabout, as you all see, is a counseling services agency for adolescents, children, adolescents, young adults.
Right now, we just need everybody to introduce themselves, and then we'll, because you only have about 20 minutes, so then we can.
That's right. Okay, thank you.
Hi, good morning. I'm Sonia Del Cruz, and I am the Finance Director for Turnabout.
Okay. Is this just you two?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, very good. Okay. Let me just ask one of the first questions, and that is, how has COVID-19 affected you in terms of your implementation of your program, affected you in terms of the number of clients that you serve, maybe the money coming in, or anything else that you have that you can help us to understand how this has affected your services to your clients?
Well, basically, like everyone else that's living in this different time, as evidenced by what we're doing right now, we did experience a shift. And so we did in fact lose a lot of our school program. Let's just get there. We were able to keep about half of our kids, and we did that by using what we're using now, using teletherapy through teleconferencing, telephone counseling, and keeping in touch with parents to make sure that the kids were involved. We were able to keep all of our clients that were enrolled in IOP and their parents, so that was a plus. But we did in fact lose about 2/3 of what we were pulling down from some grants, block grants that we do have. So yeah, we hit it. It hit us pretty sizable. We did in fact though receive PPP. We did in fact receive the LEAN grant that we applied for. So we're able to keep the folks that we have. Actually, we were able to hire a counselor from among our student interns that were invaluable to us during that time. So, and then of course, now we are still kind of sitting in that space. We aren't able to do our camp that would have increased some revenues this summer because of COVID. But we do have our protocols. We had to readjust, of course, our policies and procedures around COVID and keeping our clients safe.
Okay. Any of the other team, do you have questions centered around that?
My question is, do the effects of COVID directly impact the budget that you submitted for this request?
Absolutely. Absolutely it will. And I'll turn it to Sonia.
Well,
because it's really like busted.
So how we, even with the CHSP funding, we get reimbursed for for our direct salaries, for our salaries and benefits that we pay the counselors for providing the direct services. And obviously that's been reduced because we're not able to access our clients, our school kids in the camp and things like that. And then with the intensive outpatient program, how it's affected it is, again, we every year consistently for the last 3 years have exceeded. We provided more funding services than we had received reimbursement for by significant amount of money. And obviously, because we couldn't provide those services, we got hit while school was still in session. We are able to pull down less than one fourth of our funding at this. It's hit.
Okay, thank you.
So that has subsequent consequences as far as ability to hire the appropriate staff to meet needs and so forth.
Okay. You said the ability to hire staff and what else?
Well, usually we have the ability to add to our staff where we need to be to provide our services.
Okay. All right.
So I have a question. So to further that question, since you do have such a significant reduction in the referrals from the schools, is that going to impact staff that you keep on, or are the counselors contracted? How does that work? And also with the ask.
Okay, so what it is our staff, which it was written into the grant, we had a set staff, they're not contracted to provide the services, but we relied heavily for those, like I said, we provide so many services, we far exceed our reimbursement for what we provide. Through the PhD and master levels students that were assisting in providing those services. So those students are gone. We're keeping our core staff going, but we know once schools opens back up, we'll have to again bring back as staff through fruition naturally transitioned out. So we had some staff that just naturally transitioned out. We did not replace, but they are going to need to be replaced if we're going to provide the appropriate level of services.
Okay. Questions from the team?
I have a number of questions, and I don't know if I should just go through all of them or let others have a turn.
Yeah, would you do that, Nancy? Let others have a turn.
I will let others have a turn. My first question is general, just about Turnabout as an organization. Last year, the comment was made that you had, at that point, 12 members of your board. Now you have only 6. I'm wondering what happened.
Turnabout has been going through transition for the last 2 years with the resignation of their executive director and me being interim for about 2.5 years and now fully executive director. So we've gone through, and then the natural attrition off of the board per bylaws has happened. So we are in a rebuilding phase, literally in a rebuilding phase. So that's why you see, and we have redone, the bylaws have been redone to where a minimum of 8 is what we thought we needed best to try to move this agency forward in a more, I hate the word practical, but practical way. So that's where we are. You caught us in the middle of rebuilding. Then we had the pandemic.
I understand.
Yeah.
So should I ask another question or let someone else?
Does anyone else have a question? You can ask your second question, Nancy.
Expand on that.
I'm sorry. Someone else.
I was going to say, just on, Nancy, on your question with the rebuilding, how long do you see that taking? Is this a 6-month process before you start onboarding board members or sort of implement your new plan? Or what's your time on that?
They are right now in the process of recruiting new members. We actually did add another person, a new person on the board in the last 2 months, 3 months now. She's 2-3 months she's been on with us. So yeah, they are actively recruiting, and yeah, it probably will be in the next 6 months. We will not, and it has been written in the bylaws, we won't be shooting to go towards 12 again. We will be shooting to do more quality over quantity is where the board is these days. And I agree with that.
Okay, Nancy.
Okay, and I did see in your bylaws, just as a comment, that you do recommend at least 6 members, and you have that. So it's not that you're in violation of your bylaws. I do understand that. When it comes to fundraising, there were several things commented on in the last review about fundraising, about diversifying fundraising. And I noticed that your revenue streams primarily rely on state with the Department of Children and Families, and then CHSP. There was a Capital Health Plan partnership commented on the last time. What's up with that?
We are still a provider for Capital Health Plan. And so we do have revenue. I think it was spoken to in the financial section. And so that's the revenue stream for Turnabout as well through Capital Health Plan. So we still use that. They do fund outpatient and intensive outpatient. We are still on their provider list. One of the things I do want to, when I got these questions, I realized I had mistakenly left off that in August of 2019, I did in fact submit a request for funding to the Leon County School Board for $50,000 for the work that we currently do and to be the mental health provider for the required mental health courses that children have to have now. That was not funded. They went with another company, but I did in fact apply for that. So a couple of times we applied also, we did have for years a CVRR grant for our victims and children that are experiencing trauma, but it just wasn't feasible. It hasn't been feasible for many, particularly agencies our size around the state have. We decided, again, in this restructuring, this transition, we made a decision on the executive team to not try to, because it was costly to us, right? We had to front those monies and wait for months and months and months to be reimbursed. It was too costly for an agency this size. So we decided year before last to not do that. So much of our funding that comes through, and those children that are victims, they come through our school program. So that's where we just decided we still provide the services, but again, as Sonia had said earlier, we're giving out way more service than we're getting reimbursed for. So that's some of that with the grant. And then of course, just funding in general, as you all would know, is taking a nice little turn too. So some of that.
We were supported by the Need Foundation for a lot of years. That went away. They chose, not because we weren't providing, not because it wasn't their mission anymore. They changed the mission. So like they said, they thanked us for everything that we've done, but they decided to go into a different direction. Kind of United Way used to be a supporter. Again, they decided to go into a different direction. The CVR, like we said, we let go of that grant because we had a particular donor who loved that grant. So she supplemented it annually with her donations in order to cover the costs. Unfortunately, she passed away. That was one of the things that we took into consideration. We always knew with that one grant through the state attorney general that it was going to be at a loss, but we had to supplement it in other ways. Donors obviously have gone down significantly, and you know, and the grants, they're just not there for us. We've applied, we've looked into them.
That's fine. I think you answered. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
I have a question about your IOP.
Yes.
You said that it targets youth between 11 and 18. And maybe it's just not my understanding, but in section 1.3 of that form 2, you have 20 of your clients that are between ages 26 and 55 plus. And then there are only 10 clients that are within that age group of 11 to 18. And I'm just trying to understand that, since you're supposed to be targeting 11 to 18.
We do target, but we target on a family model. The model of including the family, and families are included as clients because they receive a family counseling session with the therapist, they receive individual counseling, and they receive parent education. In the field of addiction, it is the system that has to be addressed if children are to get better. And so it really is the family that's where those numbers come in. So a kid comes in, but they may have a mom, a dad, and a stepdad. So that number is going to be higher. And so those people, children can't even come to our IOP unless their parents are involved in the treatment. We've seen it over the years that it does not work if you just put in the identified, quote unquote, identified patient. It has to be a systems approach, and that's what it is. All IOPs, we actually, by DCF and CARF, it is recognized that the family should be included. All kind of research out there saying that. And basically, it is, these folks are getting, that's why it's intensive. They're getting this kind of counseling every single day of every weekday. They're getting that kind of counseling.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. That helps.
Yes.
I have a follow-up to that. I had the same question that Dr. Fields has. And additionally, you list a cost per client at slightly over $3,000. And my question is that all 28 clients divided into your total costs? So you come up with $3,000 for each of the 28. And according to your mission, the children you're serving should be your actual clients. So that's the, so if you had a child and parents, then we talking about $9,000 for that one family?
No, it wouldn't be 9,000. Well, it might be. Yeah, it would be. Let me take that.
Okay.
Yes, it would
fine.
be,
That's
because
fine.
IOP it is very expensive to do this because it's just before residential.
I do understand that. I'm not criticizing your program in any way, I promise. So have you considered maybe revising your mission a little bit with that program to include families as clients? I think that's completely legitimate. Have you all discussed that as a board?
That's included in there. That is included in there because they can't come to our program unless the parent is a client.
Okay, and I'm not arguing with you, but I just want to make sure I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
So I agree. I believe what you're saying, but I don't see that articulated in your discussion of what your mission is, that includes families.
Yeah.
We say family.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, because I think what
maybe somewhere was an oversight. Maybe somewhere was an oversight when I was pulling this all together. I've been at this agency since I was a counselor. So I'm thinking maybe it was an oversight on my part. I don't know. And our brochures, everything we put out to CHP says families.
Because I was looking at it as families are there because of the children, but they're not clients. Is the way I was reading it. So
okay. Okay.
So, and I'm thinking that's what Nancy is saying too, that we understand that families have to be involved in order for the child to get better. But I wasn't looking at it as they were considered actual clients.
Yeah, we test them for UAs and everything.
Okay.
So
maybe it was the way I worded it. I'm just going to take that, the way I worded it.
Well, it's just that cost per client. If you have only 10 children that fit your age range, then your cost per client is quite a bit higher than $3,000. That was my only point.
Mhm.
So I think I've gotten an answer. Thank you.
Okay. I'll check the word.
Other questions by the team?
I do have one more. I'm sorry.
Right.
This one has to do with the other program, the SIPP program, and it's really just curiosity on my part. You define the client as K through 12 students, but you have one client that's in the 40 to 54 age range. Who is that? I'm just curious. I just
we wouldn't have been a client now. They would have been in the IOP. I don't know if that wasn't a mistake. Yeah,
it's okay. It's all right. I was just curious. I'm just curious. It's okay. All right. Thank you.
I have a question.
Okay.
So the virus now, I know you outlined your different treatment plans. Have they changed?
We have 1 minute left.
Treatment plans that you outlined in the program, have they changed because of the virus?
Yeah, we since the virus, we have gone to one group per day, but still they get the individual counseling, they get the parent counseling, and they get the parent wrap, where the parent education. And we've done that telephonically and through teleconferencing. Yes. So we shifted to one group versus two groups every day for IOP. And then for others, it was always once a week anyway. So we just tried to keep it using different methods. We tried to keep the treatment plans, particularly for the school kids, still once a week, individual counseling, no matter what.
We are at time.
Well, I want to thank you all today and ask that you just have a very blessed rest of the week.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
The Counseling Center at Florida A&M University. I've been with this process for about 22 years, and the rest of the team are going to introduce themselves, and then we'll get started.
I am Nancy O'Farrell. I am retired, and I'm currently serving as the volunteer executive director of NAMI Tallahassee, the local affiliate of the National Alliance on Mental Illness. And this is my 5th year as a team member.
Thank you, Nancy.
Good morning. My name is Rachel Oliver. I'm the center manager for Career Source Capital Region, and this is my 3rd year.
Good morning. My name is Shonda Davis. I am with Capital Medical Society, the We Care Network, and this is my 2nd year on the review team.
Good morning. My name is Shannon Roberts. I'm a community advocate. This is my 3rd year with the team.
Wonderful. Good to see you.
And I'm Arun Dhanarajan, and I'm the finance director for the Big Bend Homeless Coalition, and this will be my 2nd time on the CHSP review team.
Good to see you, Arun.
Good morning. My name is Lauren Kelly Manders. I'm a grants officer at FSU's Office of Sponsored Research, and I've been with the CHSP review team for 2 years. I'll be your timekeeper today. So if you would just briefly introduce yourself and your role in your organization, then we will get started with our 20-minute question and answer session.
Thank you, Lauren. Thank you, everyone. It's good to see you this morning and to meet some of you and to say hi to some of our folks that we already know. My name is Meg Baldwin, and I'm the executive director at Refuge House. And on the call with us today is Jeremy Smith, our CFO, and Emily Mitchum, our assistant director.
Unmute yourself, Madam Chairperson. Madam Chairperson.
Unmuted. Okay, there we are. Can you hear me now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. My question is, how has COVID-19 affected your implementation of your program. We're talking about budget. We're talking about clients, everything that may have gone into that. How has that affected you?
Thank you, Dr. Fields. The impact of COVID has been quite remarkable, particularly on our courthouse program and our courthouse team and operations. In terms of program support for the community, we saw the number of survivors reaching out for injunction assistance rise dramatically in March and April. The numbers of survivors seeking services declined in May and is back up in June. We associate that pattern with an initial focus by survivors as the stay-at-home orders were announced to secure their safety as quickly and as effectively as they could in anticipation of greater intensity from abusers to move into their houses or to remain in homes where abuse was being inflicted. So we were extremely happy to be providing that service during that transition time. We were very concerned in May as the numbers went down, as they did in our other domestic violence services areas, which again, we also associate with the stay-at-home order insofar as abusers have more continuous direct contact with victims because both were quarantined or staying at home, not going to work, not having the usual routines that provide some safety and also privacy for victims to reach out to us. We were pleased to see, particularly in courthouse, the numbers of victims seeking services again rebound in June. In terms of program implementation, I'm sure everyone is aware that the courthouse in particular implemented a reduced activity order from the chief judge beginning in March. For us, that had two impacts. One was we noted that we were among the essential judicial services that continued to operate full-time at the courthouse. So our role at the courthouse continued unabated under the judicial order that was put in place again at in mid-March. And at the same time, the courthouse was attempting to, as much as possible, reduce the foot traffic into the courthouse and also reduce as much as possible the physical interaction of people who were assigned to courthouse duty in person. So the way that we've accommodated those several needs is that we have implemented now an all online system for filling out injunction forms, getting signatures properly entered, notarized, and injunctions filed without the petitioner, the victim, needing to come physically to the courthouse to make that happen. We're at about 75% of where we want to be in terms of implementing that new process, because of some quirks in particularly the document collection process that on the computer platform, we still have to be physically present in the courthouse to print and deliver those petitions as we fill them out electronically with the survivor. So the survivors don't have to come into the courthouse, but we do. We did have some significant additional expenses associated with moving on to that online platform. We purchased new computers for all of our courthouse staff so that they would have the kind of hardware capacity that's needed for all these myriad of interfaces that have to come together to make those petitions move forward, as well as licensing for the online DocuSign, the online notarization process, and other systems that have to be in place for that method to be workable. What we're excited about is that once the COVID crisis is over, and we know it will be, that system will be in place for all 8 of our counties.
Okay, okay.
Sorry, that was a long answer. It was a lot of information.
Yeah. Does the team have any questions in terms of that, COVID-19? No? Okay. Questions, other questions?
I did receive questions from Ms. O'Farrell, so on Friday, so we'd love to have a minute to be able to respond to her questions as well.
That's what I was just about to do. So my first question had to do with the geographic diversity of your members, because there's policy in your bylaws that requires geographic diversity. But all of your board members are from Leon County, and 30% of your clients are from outside of Leon County. So I suspect that that's challenging. And 9 of 11 of your board members are white. Just thought you might talk for a minute about those issues.
Thank you, Ms. O'Farrell. And those two diversity elements, geographic diversity and racial diversity, are the top 2 priorities for our recruiting plan for this year. And I'm happy to report that since we submitted our application for this round of funding, we've recruited 2 new African-American members to our board who will join the board as of next week. So we're happy about that progress. That will place our board composition at approximately 30% African-American, 70% Caucasian. We want to increase that diversity to reflect at least a 40%, 60% ratio, if not more, on the diversity side. For our geographic diversity, we also put our feet to the fire to increase our geographic representativeness this year. We have now 2 candidates under recruitment from the rural counties, one from Gadsden County and one from Taylor County. So we've identified 2 candidates that we think will be are interested and will be good matches for our mission. Our goal is to also recruit a representative from McCullough County this year. So that will at least put us in a position of having, of our 8 counties, 4 counties represented, and we'll move from there next year.
Thank you.
Other questions?
Okay, hearing none, I will like to address my second question, which has to do with something that was commented on in the award letter last year about a written agreement with Leon County. I see you have an actual contract with DCF and then a collaborative agreement with legal services. But maybe I just didn't find it in the narrative, but I didn't see any comment on a written agreement with the county. So how about that?
Thank you. Thanks for raising that issue. We do have a written collaborative agreement with the Leon County Clerk of Courts. And as I was digging into what I thought was really the intention of the review team's comment, to have an agreement that reflects a kind of a stability in our real estate in the courthouse. I had to sort of tread lightly through the courthouse to determine who actually, for want of a better term, owns that real estate. Because as you can imagine, there are there's a big jigsaw puzzle at the courthouse between the commission, the state attorney, the public defender, the court system, and then the clerk of court as to who gets to manage what square footage within the building. And so we did determine that it was the clerk of court that manages our particular turf. And Clerk Marshall has an agreement in front of her right now asking her to affirm that she supports the continued operation of our
of our courthouse program within a secure and adequate environment. So we've made good progress on that. It was the detective work that was actually the most, I guess, delicate in advancing that issue.
Very good. I have a question I'd like to ask. If for whatever reason you aren't able to get all the funding that you're requesting for this project, what would be at a deficit for you?
We did request an increase in funding this year to support the courthouse program in particular. And the basis for that request was an effort to recognize that, just a huge workload that our courthouse team takes on year after year, serving these days over 1,200 clients a year, between typically 1.5 advocates in the courthouse office on 9 to 5. So the bulk of our request for increase is for an increase in salaries for our courthouse coordinator and for our courthouse advocate. We want to get the courthouse advocate salary up to $14 an hour or more, and our courthouse coordinator salary up to $35,000. If we don't receive an increase or receive a cut in our courthouse program budget, what we would do first is look to see whether we could continue to support the activities at the courthouse with other funding, our domestic violence funding that comes from our DCF contract. But needless to say, that budget too is stretched very thin to cover our 24-hour shelter operations. So we'd make it work, but it would pinch us somewhere.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, I want to ask, Meg, you had mentioned that you guys are about at 75% with getting, all this new technology and platform to be able to serve. Do you anticipate being able to meet your deliverables?
Yes, we see no issue in that regard at all.
Any other questions? Meg, is there anything that you feel is crucial that we need to know to help us make our decision?
I think something that I just like to comment on that I also don't think comes through very well or as strong as I'd like it to in our application when I was kind of reviewing things over the weekend, is how important the courthouse program is for connecting survivors whose first contact is with law enforcement or with DCF to the full array of our program services. Often the courthouse program is the first contact that those survivors have with our services overall. Learn about shelter services, learn about victims' compensation, about the continuing outreach counseling that they can receive from that point forward. Learn about even how to enforce a protective order that they may receive from the court as a result of their visit with us that day. So I think we typically present our hotline as the place where, as the kind of vortex where most survivors come and reach out and find us for services. But the courthouse is the face-to-face location where that connection gets forged and is particularly important to us for that reason.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Team, any more questions? Well, thank you very, very much, Meg. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and thanks for your service on this panel, and we appreciate you very much.
You're quite welcome.
Background noise, and with that, Dr. Anika Fields will start the meeting. Thank you.
Hello again, everybody. I don't know whether you can see me or not. I understand I'm going to be going in and out with the picture, but I can see you all, and hopefully at some point you'll be able to see me too. My name is Anika Fields. I am the Director of Counseling Services at FAMU, and I've been with this process for about 22 years. I'm going to have the other team to introduce themselves.
I am Nancy L. Farrell. I am retired, but I'm currently the volunteer executive director of NAMI Tallahassee, which is the local affiliate of the National Alliance on Mental Illness. And this is my 5th year as a team member.
Hello, my name is Rachel Oliver. I represent Careers First Capital Region, and I've been with the team for 3 years.
Hello, my name is Shannon Roberts, and I'm a community advocate. I've been with the team for 3 years.
Hi, my name is Shonda Davis. I am with Capital Medical Society, the We Care Network, and this is my 2nd year on the review team.
Hi, and I'm Maroon Dunrajan. I'm with Big Bend Homeless Coalition as the Director of Finance, and this will be my 2nd year with the CRT team.
Good afternoon. My name is Lauren Kelly Manders. I'm a grants officer at FSU's Office of Sponsored Research Administration, and I've been with the CHSP process for 2 years now. I'm going to be your timekeeper today, and so if you would just go ahead and introduce yourselves by name and your relationship in your organization, we'll go ahead and get started with a 20-minute question and answer session.
Great, thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Marissa Button. I am the board president for the Oasis Center for Women and Girls. I've been on the board since 2015, and I'll let my colleagues and friends here introduce themselves. Robin, why don't you go ahead?
Yes. Hi, I'm Robin Dunn Bryant. I'm the Women's Empowerment Coordinator at the Oasis Center for Women and Girls.
My name is Andrea Jens, and I have been a board member since 2015, I believe.
Hi, I'm Kathleen Katie Brennan, and I'm a founding member of Oasis, as well as this is my 7th year on the board, and I am the immediate past president.
And everybody? Yes? Okay. Then we will start. My first question is, how has COVID-19 affected you in terms of budget, in terms of clientele? Have you been able to implement your programs, or have you had to postpone some programs? How has it affected you?
Thank you, Dr. Fields. Overall, certainly we have been impacted by COVID-19. We had programs running, particularly even the single mom support group that we're here to talk about today, that we were able to transition into a virtual setting. So we have some capacity with being able to transition our current programs, and we have girls empowerment programs where we did the same thing. And so we started in person and then made the switch and continued to implement the programs virtually. And we're now currently in a space where we're further adjusting programming, recruiting new participants, unduplicated participants to programming has been challenging. And so we attempted a brand new virtual single mom support group, again, speaking directly to the program we're here today to talk about. And it was difficult. We did not get the number of participants to commit to that virtual 8-week-long session. And so what we're doing now is transitioning to look at offerings that may be more desirable and meet the needs of our single moms population, particularly with unique one-off offerings virtually until we can get started back up as we monitor the safety of the community at large right now. And so I think a big piece of that, that's where that program, it's been difficult to transition, is because babysitting is a huge aspect of the Single Mom Support Group program. The very overwhelm of, being isolated is really difficult. And so that is something that we're working on transitioning through. From a budget perspective, and we have had to halt some of our programming. We did have a summer camp, and so that's not related to this program particularly, but we have had to, we made the decision, attempted to do a recruit for an offering, but with the space that we have, it's difficult. So that's changed our budget, and we are looking at how we modify for the rest of the year. And we've also had, just putting it all out there, transition with our executive director as well. So our executive director departed from Oasis, not due to COVID-19, but that creates an interesting transition overall for us as well. We feel good because we have been able to engage with our former executive director, Haley Cutler, who some of you may know, who's back to town in a consulting capacity. So the board is excited about that. And we also will be re-engaging with our founder, Kelly Oddie, as an interim temporary executive director to get us through the summer. So we're excited about some of the strategic moves we've been able to make in terms of transition, leadership-wise, and in terms of COVID. Thank you.
Okay. And in terms of your Single Moms program, has any budget had to be moved or haven't gotten what you needed for that program because of COVID?
I would say not at this time. We're in that period of transition. I think we're going to be able to work and meet the budget requirements to execute the program, and so I think that we're still in that transition. But up until now, we've been okay in terms of budget.
Okay. Does any of the team have any questions about that?
I do. I think it's really just a clarification, because maybe I didn't understand what you said, but my understanding is you've gone from an in-person support group to a virtual one. And part of the in-person support group program was to offer babysitting. So single moms could come and bring their babies or small children. And now, of course, you're not in person, so clearly you can't offer babysitting. So perhaps your attendance has fallen off because moms are home with the babies and they've got nobody to watch the babies and carve out that time for support groups. So I missed what you're doing about that.
So thank you, Nancy. Hi, Haley. What we're doing is exploring, instead of the long cohort of 8 weeks committing to that day of the week, is exploring offering unique one-off topic-based virtual meetups. So if they're for single moms, so sort of shifting that, it's a lot to commit to for those 8 weeks. So we're looking at shifting that way with the idea that once we can, we're going to be bringing people back into the space.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, I read in your application that for next year, you're wanting to charge a fee for the moms of $80, and you're hoping that that would give them the incentive to actually attend on a more regular basis. Is that still going to be in place?
I thank you for that question. In the incentive or the buy-in of paying a fee associated with the cohort model, certainly at the time, and what we've experienced as we've transitioned through this last part of our current grant cycle, is that we think it will be impactful. What we're going to be analyzing is whether or not we can execute that once everybody gets back to normal, for lack of a better way of putting it, with the pandemic. And so we do intend to, if we can, still execute that, because it has been shown that it's a buy-in and a commitment that really helps the moms meet their goal of attendance and participation. But we do not intend to turn participants away for inability to pay. And so I know that was one of the team questions that came in advance. Does the $80 have to be paid at the front end? We are absolutely and have been willing to work with participants in terms of payment plans, and we do not turn away a potential participant for inability to pay. We build the cohorts holistically with framing the cohesiveness of the group and what their interests are. And so the ability to pay is not a part of that concept. So we'd like to be able to continue the model, but we know we may have to be flexible and not be able to do that.
Thank you.
I have a follow-up question to that, excuse me. Was it ever to address why they was the moms wasn't attending the meetings? And why you started charging $80?
Thank you for that question. I think that our concern had not been particular that moms were not attending overall. It's the consistent attendance. And so moms we only have a certain space for participants. And in the drop-in model, moms may have every intent to come and not be able to. And we always have more demand than we have space and ability to provide. That's one aspect of this program, why we know there's a need. And so really this was to, in large part, incentivize that and then provide some predictability for us as we implement as well. And so there always has been interest. It's getting to that consistency that this was to address.
Marissa, can I add one thing to that? Hi, everybody.
Absolutely.
To be clear, the model was a drop-in model, which meant the model before was moms can come whenever they felt like they wanted to and whenever it kind of works for them. So that by its very nature means that it's inconsistent, right? Because the communication about the group was always just come whenever it feels good. As we wanted to, which was great for support, but as we wanted to increase the impact of the program in terms of the impact that it had on moms' lives, from just having a place for support where you know that you could come and you would be supported, to really helping moms reach their long-term goals, is when we made that shift to focus on these different aspects, the 8 dimensions of wellness, which require this cohort model and consistency. So that sort of shift is happening. You're seeing two things happen, right? The fee is associated with buy-in for a new model, which is really, we want folks to commit to 8 straight weeks so that we can help them with their goals around these indices of wellness. So you're just seeing a shift in the program approach overall, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Still work with the virtual? Nah, with the virtual classes. Since you're going virtual with everything, does the drop-in model still work?
So we haven't executed yet a drop-in model because we haven't executed an 8-week cohort because virtually that's been tough with the lack of babysitting. But from a virtual aspect, if we do these unique one-off topic-based virtual presentations, we would not do a fee associated with those one-off. So sorry, I want to make sure. I think I say things and then I did not mention that. So to be clear, in that interim, before we can get back to the in-person model, that those likely would not be fee associated with them. But again, we're not, we're not turning away in that model either for inability to pay.
Other questions?
I do have a question or two. If we're done with the impact of COVID, are we now just moving to general questions, Dr. Fields?
Yes.
Just Nancy, excuse me, just to remind everybody, please mute yourselves when you're not speaking. Hi, Haley.
Okay, let me just check this. I noticed on your board, one of your recommendations from the last funding cycle was that you might diversify your board in reference to gender. and it appears that it's still all women. Are you still working on that?
Thank you for the question, Nancy. Our board has, knowing that this was a citizen review team concern, definitely very robustly discussed this issue. And where we've landed is we know the very existence of OASIS, among other areas of support, celebration, and empowerment, is really encouraging women's leadership and women to have a seat at the table where decisions are being made. So very thoughtfully, we have determined that we would not change the composition of the board of directors and deny a seat for a woman or a girl, because we have girls that serve on our board as well, for a male participant. However, we have decided that we would look at formulating a community council that would include male membership, sort of in line with a type of advisory council, but again, a community council with including men, including our supporters, past clients, basically to get a sense of community needs for what our operations are and what we serve. And so that's how we've addressed that issue at this point in time in terms of the board.
Other questions? Right now, what would you say would be your with this program, your most fundamental needs? Needs that if you weren't funded, you would not be able to provide?
Our fundamental needs for this program are, if specifically and explicitly, staffing of the program, staffing holistically, which is why the request is presented in the way that it is. We need to have the staff to be able to serve the and retain and be able to recruit participants. And so that is our biggest need. If we're reduced in the award, then likely the concern is there's a commensurate reduction in the ability of us to have participants. So overall, we still have, there's aspects of delivering the program in terms of occupancy and all of those, the materials, supplies, dinner, babysitting that go to facilitate the program, but we need the staffing to execute the program itself.
Other questions?
This is Lauren. I have a question about that personnel breakdown. I felt a little odd when I read that the executive director would have a 10% FTE on this. I understand that the ED is adjacent to every program under the direction of an organization, but to charge this particular program with 10% for the ED and health insurance included just felt a little odd to me. So if you could just speak to that, I would appreciate it.
Sure. Thank you for the question. And it is an adjacent need to the execution of the program itself. So it is a breakdown in terms of the other programs as well that we're delivering, and particularly with the single mom support group in terms of outreach, in terms of referral relationships, many of those type of things really do encompass what the ED role has, that participation in the program itself too. So it is the breakdown in that sense.
Can I add one thing, Marissa?
Yes, please.
The other thing that I would point out is that OASIS is a really tiny organization. And so with only a few staff members, there isn't the kind of support staff that you see in a larger organization. So I can understand why for a program that seems, like small financially, it's kind of like, why is 10% of the ED's role? But to remember that our Women's Empowerment Coordinator is only a part-time employee. So the ED at OASIS does a lot more direct services than what you would imagine an ED at a larger institution does. They're very, very hands-on with everyone in the program by necessity because of the very small size of the organization. The other thing that I would mention is that not even the full cost of staffing the program are articulated in this request. So you've heard Marissa mention the babysitter a couple of times. So obviously you cannot provide a service for single mothers without providing childcare during the group. That is a salary that is absolutely necessary to support the program, which the agency is compensating through unrestricted funds at this time and is not a part of this request. So kind of just to keep that balance in mind, the ED is very hands-on with the programs, and there are direct program staff like the babysitter that are that are absolutely necessary and being subsidized through unrestricted funds. Does that help, Lauren?
Thank you. And I just want to let you know we have a 1.5 minute warning.
Other questions? Ms. Button, would you like to tell us anything that you feel you really like for us to know in terms of that would help with our decision making?
Thank you, Dr. Fields. I just want to thank, we want to thank all of you for participating today. We know it's an incredibly important responsibility. We appreciate that you're here. One thing that we know about our program that we're applying for here is that it is going to be needed more than ever. We are already oversubscribed in terms of what we can offer, and with the trauma and the upheaval of what has happened with the pandemic and how that has fundamentally changed people's lives, and especially single moms who've got kids at home trying to get their jobs done. I live in a household with a partner, and it's hard for me. And so I just want to implore that is why we think this is especially so vital of a program to fund right now. And we will be prepared with a gender-informed, trauma-informed, culturally competent offering to all of the participants in the program. And that's all we have. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good to see everyone. So take care, okay?
Good seeing you all. Thank you very much for your time.
Good afternoon. I'm Anika Fields. I am the Director of Counseling Services at FAMU, and I'm the chair. I have been with CHP's Citizen Review team for about 22 years. I'm going to have the rest of the team to introduce themselves.
I am Nancy Farrell. I'm retired, but currently serving as the volunteer executive director for NAMI Tallahassee, which is the local affiliate of the National Alliance on Mental Illness. And I have been a team member for 5 years.
Shannon Roberts. I'm a community advocate. I've been with the team for 3 years.
Good afternoon. My name is Rachel Oliver. I am the Center Manager for CareerSource Capital Region, and I've been with the team for 3 years.
Hi, my name is Shonda Davis. I am with Capital Medical Society, the We Care Network, and I've been on the review team for 2 years.
Hi, I'm Arun Dhanarajan with Big Bend Homeless Coalition, and I have been with the CRT team. This will be my second time.
Lauren, you're on mute. Start on.
Hey, Dr. Judy. My name is
Hello.
Lauren. I'm a grants officer at FSU Research Administration, and I've been with the CHSP Citizens Review team for 2 years now. I'm going to be your timekeeper today. So if you would just introduce yourself and your relationship to your organization, and then we'll get started with our 20-minute question and answer session.
I am Dr. Judy Mandrell, the Executive Director of Dream Builders Greatness Center, and I'm glad to be here. And I have some of my staff and board of directors with me.
Probably different from for you because this is a new program. Can you see me? You're looking like you're looking for me.
I'm trying to see who am I talking to.
Fields. This is
Oh, Dr.
Anika Fields.
Fields. Oh, okay,
Yes.
okay. I don't see the picture. I was looking who's talking. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, it's something wrong. They said with my bandwidth or something. So I understand. I'll come in and out.
Yes, ma'am.
But if you could tell us with this new program, how do you think COVID-19 would affect you in terms of implementing the program?
Well, actually, we've been working even since we've had COVID-19. Our program really go into the homes, and we've been able to provide assistance to the families already since COVID. We haven't been able to go directly into some of the homes. Some of the homes we have will wear our masks and kept the social distancing, but because we're providing direct services to the families, we've been able to put beds, dining room tables, and games into the homes since COVID, which is helping to strengthen the families now. And we know that if we have a spike, we will be able to continue in that manner.
Okay, so you've been doing some things, and you're saying that that's been working for you?
Yes, ma'am, it has. It really has. And just this last week, we were able to put some baby beds in the house. And one of the young ladies, she's 2 years old, and she actually was excited about going home because she got to sleep in her own. She got to sleep in a bed. She's never slept in a bed, and she's 2 years old.
Okay. Okay. If COVID continued, because we don't know how long it's going to be, would you see that would affect the program in any way if it did continue in terms of what you're wanting to do?
It may limit it in some way, but we believe that we can be creative enough to really get back in there somehow. I believe that it will create a little problem simply because we go directly in the homes to provide the services. However, this last 3 months have shown us with a little creativity and stuff, we've been able to still provide some of the services. Part of the services, taking the families out to dinner and out, we have not been able to do that, but we have been able to bring the dinners and games and the unity of the family into the home more.
Okay. Thank you. Any of the team have any questions around that? Okay, other questions?
I do have a couple. My first one is that your bylaws call for your board of directors to have a treasurer or a financial person of some sort, and I don't see that in your listed directors as an officer. Could you speak to that, please?
Yes, ma'am. Since the time we submitted the application, the board has chosen Mr. Douglas Waddell, who's here, and he could speak on his qualification for just a minute as to why he was chosen as the treasurer for the board.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Doug Waddell. Just really quickly, I have quite a few experiences working in higher ed institutions and state budgets over the last 25 years, especially with government money and funded money and grant monies, with TRIO programs, as well as programs such as CROP and those types of things. So I'm very familiar with working with these types of programs, and I'm extremely happy to assist.
Other questions?
I had a financial question since we're talking on treasurer. I noticed, so for the current year, you guys are operating on being your first year on a $20,000 budget. And then the next year, the proposed year is $60,000. I noticed that in the worksheet that the $20,000 that was not from CHP is no longer in there. Is that a funding source that has gone away or won't be present this next year?
It may not be. The Tallahassee Police Department has given us a $20,000 grant, and we've been operating off of that as well. And we don't know, I'm part of the bridge program, and that's how the first one come in, because we're working with the bridge program.
Okay, I have another financial question. In Form 2, Section 1.1, You don't have specific amounts for things. You just have lump sums for salaries, lump sums for outings. That probably needs to be more specific to tell us exactly who's getting paid what for what. And that was really more a comment, I guess, than a question. Also, I don't see a cost per client figure. Could you address that?
With us being a new board, we didn't, with us being a new organization, a program, with us being a new program, at the meeting with the board, the estimated cost per client will be roughly about $1,750, $1,750, or $1,900, simply because the families would vary on what they would need. And so because we had a new program and we hadn't really served in that capacity, in this fullness, that would include that. That's why the cost per client wasn't on there originally. We've since gone back to reconfigure the amount per client. Also, with the budget, the compensation and benefits, we're looking at $15,000 for the ED. Then that would also include our salaries for, we will bring in counselors and family therapists into the home. We have administrative staff, and the $7,500 will be broken up between them.
Just real quick, also with those numbers, with the estimated cost per family, one thing we do want you to know is that one family doesn't mean that that's one or two people. Right now, we're serving a family that may have 10 children, you know, and so it really makes that number variable. But we were certainly hoping to stay between the 1,750 and that 1,900 number.
And the other piece that will help us to delineate what we're doing there, after the in-home study is done with the family, we can properly really assess what that family needs. For an example, Dr. Mandrell is teaching them how to have a family meeting and how to get along. So if you go into that home and there is no table, no dining room table, then we know that a dining room table needs to be purchased. Just like just recently this weekend, there were several baby beds purchased for this one family. The majority of the families that we are serving have anywhere, I think maybe 3, maybe 4, maybe the least, but up to 7 kids. So we're looking at servicing that whole family. So it really may vary based on the needs of that family and the program that we're trying to teach them. So once we're able to properly do that in-home assessment, then we'll actually see exactly what individual families would need. What we gave was an overall estimate based on what we've been doing per family and giving per family.
Who does the home assessment?
A part of our team, we have several different individuals. I am a part of that particular team as well. So we do have certified counselors. We do have individuals who are used to working with families. A part of some of the families that we're working with now, I being a principal, my background is in social services, and being a licensed counselor, you know, I was able to give some referrals of some families. So I already had some background information on those particular families, but our staff is definitely qualified and has worked in the community doing these services before the funding has been applied.
And I do work with the Department of Children and Families as a protective service counselor and a foster care counselor for over 20 years. And part of my responsibility at that time was to do home studies and intake and all of that. So we bring all of that into what we're doing now.
Okay.
Have you guys considered, since kind of expanding on that, have you guys considered implementing or reviewing any type of either evidence-based or research-based curriculum to kind of structure the program on, since you're doing, I guess, counseling?
We're looking at several different models. A lot of us have a variety of different experiences working with different agencies, so we've been exposed to quite a bit. I myself work with Boys Town for 15 years learning behavior modification, and several family structures and PACE for 10 years, learning a different way of doing it. So we're actually looking at various different models, some things that we saw work, some things that we didn't see work, but trying to make it really accommodating to the family based on their needs and their level of comfort.
And one of the things that has worked for us thus far is going into the homes and providing personal care. And that seems to be working a real good for us because it seemed more personal for the families. And like we're really there to support them. Instead of going to agency, we're coming in. And so we're bringing over 80 years of experience into what we're doing.
If I could just add just a recent example, we have a mother of 6 who was just at Gainesville, problematic pregnancy. She just had a newborn on Monday. She did not have any other family support. So she called us. We traveled to Gainesville. We brought her back, assured that her children were placed somewhere while she delivered this baby. They were all reunited on yesterday. This is a part of what we're doing. It is very personal and is hands-on.
We're currently serving 25 children, 4 families.
And if I may, I think another thing that's really important, I think really we want to really focus on really helping these people take the stress off and really focus on the mental health of them and making sure that the families can stay together and that we can support them in any way we can.
What would be some fundamental needs that this is Anika Fields again. I see you looking, Dr. Judy. I'm sorry. What would be some fundamental needs that you know you would have to have in case we aren't able to give you all the money that you're requesting?
Some of the fundamental needs, as she just stated, one was the dining room table, furniture, household appliances, the beds, taking the cultural experiences. These are fundamental things that I really believe will help these families. Just different cultural experiences. Just getting them, some hadn't even been to the Governor Square Mall, and I didn't know that. Some hadn't even been to Harry's. We were planning a dinner, and I asked them what was their favorite restaurant, and they said McDonald's and Burger King. And so we wanted to buy them clothes. We were watching them in their clothes. I mean, they're actually wearing clothes with holes in them and too small and all that. But to take them to Walmart and buy them clothes and let them choose their own clothes, and man, they were so excited just to see the smile and to take them back in their home. So these are some things, Dr. Fields, that we really consider essential. They need these things, because if you walk into an environment and it's not good for you, you don't want to be there. So we're helping changing the outer environment, even going into the home, walking into one of the homes and they got all their clothes hanging in the living room, which is much smaller than my den, way smaller. And then I sat on the couch, the mother started crying because I went right down in the hole. So what I did, I had like it didn't bother me at all. I sat on the screen. When I left, I had a little cut, but she didn't know it. You know, she didn't know it because when I went back the next day, you know where I sat? In the same place. I just had on thicker jeans, but I just wanted her to know that it was okay and that we were there to help make that better. So Dr. Fields, some of the things I think we take for granted, Ms. Lauren, is some of the things that they have to have.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Yeah, this is Lauren. I love the idea that you are going to homes rather than people, forcing the burden on families to seek out services, if they're already in a tight spot. So I love the concept of this program. And I know that you're already doing the work because I know you, but can you tell me more specifically about like the families that have material needs? Who is there like a threshold where you're like, okay, well, we have this family, they have 7 to 10 kids, we're going to provide X number of dollars for them in addition to the behavioral modification and support that like family interventions. What's the balance there? Because I know it's going to be different for every family, but for the sake of like structuring a brand new program and helping us make the kind of financial connection there, what do you have in mind?
Okay, we've already partnered with FSU School of Social Work for the internships, and so to help us bridge some of the gap where the finances, because we want to spend as much and help them as much, but we've partnered with the FSU School of Social Work. We're also the Leon County School Board. We're asking for different people to come in and help provide different, and we are a partner agency. We must partner with some of the, that's why we're part of the United, the USG, the United, yeah, that's why we're part of, because they have 188 nonprofits. So we know wherever we lack, we can bring people in. The scope of it is to bring people to them. So many times we want them to go away to different things, but let's bring people there and so help balance that. And one of the things we're doing, Lauren, is teaching them to fish. So instead of giving them a fish, we're putting a lot of responsibility on them as well. We're in the home to help. Like when we take them to Harry's, we want to teach them how to order from the menu, dress them up. But then the next time we go, we won't sit at the table with them. We want to teach them how to fish, because the program is only from 6 months to a year, longer if need be. But we believe that we can work with some from 6 months to a year to get them rolling. But they can always come back and ask us for help.
And Lauren, can I add to that? I think one of the unique pieces that we have, Dr. Mandrell has pulled together a group of professionals from various different walks of life, but that their particular career and what they do is an intricate part of what she needs. And seeing her already do these things in the community, it is easy for me as a principal and a licensed counselor to say, I'm on board. Whatever you need me to do, I'm on board. I've seen it too much. We're not interested in checking no one's box, but we're interested in getting these services done. So we don't mind going into the home and helping these families based on what they say they need.
Because everybody who's sitting behind me are professionals. Antonio, what do you do? Quick.
Excuse me just a second. I'm sorry. I just want to make sure that all your questions have been, the members on the team, do others of you have questions? Please indicate, hold your hand up so that you can make sure you get your questions answered, okay? Thank you.
Any other questions, team? Lauren, how much more time do we have?
1 minute and 45 seconds.
Okay. Any more questions? Dr. Judy, if you could, if there's something that you feel like we really need to know to help us to make this decision, would you state it now? You have some time.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. What I would really like you to know is that these families who are currently serving are really happy. We have been in there about 2 months, and they are happy, they are excited, and to see the changes that we're making. And we know that going into these homes would absolutely change these people's lives. We feel like the strength of our community, strength of schools and everything is the family. So we can strengthen the families, and we can better our communities. We can better what's going on in our school, because it's their love and happiness in the home, there'll be love and happiness in school. Sometimes our crime and different things are happening because there's nothing stable in the home. So we can do that. Our motto is making home sweet again. For some, home is not sweet. Home is not happy. But we believe getting us in those homes will change that. And we're going to do it one family at a time or 17 families at a time. And we know we will make it different, collaborating with all of the other wonderful agencies in this community who have the same idea as we, but we're going into the trenches, bringing the greatness out of these families.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Kelly, this is Anika Fields. I don't know whether you see me or not, but I'm here.
Okay, hi. No, we don't. We only see Pat Holiday, but that's okay.
For everybody, my name is Anika Fields. I'm the director of the Counseling Center at FAMU, and I'm the chair. I've been with the Citizen Review team for 22 years. I'm going to let the other team introduce themselves.
Okay, my name is Nancy O'Farrell. I am retired, but I'm also serving as the volunteer executive director of NAMI Tallahassee, which is the local affiliate of the National Alliance on Mental Illness. And this is my 5th year as a team member.
Excuse me, before you go on with introductions, just want to remind everyone, if you're not presenting, would you please, if you're not presenting, would you please put yourselves on mute so we can stop the background noise? So if everyone who's not speaking can go on mute right now. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Rachel Oliver. I represent Career Source Capital Region, and I've been with the CHSP review team for 3 years.
Hi, my name is Shonda Davis. I am with Capital Medical Society, the We Care Network, and this is my 2nd year on the review team.
Hi, my name is Shannon Roberts. I'm a community advocate. I've been with the team for 3 years.
Hi, I'm Arun Dhanarajan. I'm Director of Finance with the Big Bend Homeless Coalition, and this will be my 2nd time serving with the CRT.
Hi, my name with FS Office of Sponsored Research Administration. I've been with the CHSP Citizens Review team for 2 years. I will be your timekeeper today. So if you would just briefly introduce yourself and state your role in your organization, and then we'll get started with our 20-minute question and answer session.
Hey, I'm Dr. Willie Williams. I'm the program director.
Hi, I'm Krista Avalos. I'm the social service manager.
And then on the phone.
This is Nyla Davis, and I'm the PACE board chair.
And in terms of implementation of your program, funds, number of people you serve, has it decreased, increased? How has it affected you?
I'm sorry, because the first part of your question was cut off, but I'm guessing you're asking, how did COVID impact the number of girls that we're serving?
Exactly.
So we're just serving them in a different platform. So we're using Doxy, which is HIPAA compliant. So we still have the same amount of girls, and we actually have a waiting list. So it really hasn't affected us the way we serve them.
Has it affected finances at all?
Yes, we actually, how it impacted us the most was our biggest fundraiser was supposed to be in March, and we had to cancel it. We actually moved it out of the fiscal year, so we lost that. But we did do a fund appeal. We did an appeal asking people for 2 things. One, help with the general revenue that we were losing due to fundraising, and then also to help us buy computers for the Girls in the Day program, which really didn't impact the outreach program. But so we were able to make up some of that lost revenue.
Okay. Other questions from the team?
I have a question regarding the finances. I noticed for the current fiscal year in this program that you're running about 24,000, and then the next proposed year you're upping it to about almost between 32 and 33. Just you can speak to that increase.
So it's just the cost of living. It's just everything's more expensive. Health insurance, The cost of operating the building is more expensive. That's really all that is. It's just a minor increase based on what we believe what the economy will do.
I have a question. Just curious as to why you have no board chair.
We do. She's the one that's on the phone. That was a mistake on the application.
Okay. Easy answer.
Yeah, it pre-populated with director, and I failed to go back and actually change it to chair, but Nyla is our chair.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Other questions, team? Well, Kelly,
Shannon, you're on mute right now. Just unmute and answer the question again.
Yes, sorry. What was the justification for the increase, for the fund increase? Were you able to help?
So the biggest issue is that because the outreach, we've been trying to do the outreach program with like 5 hours of our, Crystal is actually our therapist for the outreach program. And so what we want to do is increase the funding so she has more capacity to be able to deliver the services. The need is absolutely there, especially right now because the trauma is so high in the different parts of the community, so that we know we can serve more girls, but we're not funding currently to serve more girls.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a brief question about your state board. I realize that you guys don't have any, probably not a whole lot of clout with your state board, but one of the concerns of in the award letter last year was that you were strongly encouraged to diversify racially your state board if you possibly could. And I would just like to ask a question. There's nobody on the state board from Leon County, and I wonder if there's anybody who has any interest in serving on that board from our county, and would that not help you having a local member on your state board?
We did. Neil Skeen was on the board of trustees. He lives here in Leon County, but they hired him. So he's now one of the vice presidents in the organization. They're gearing up right now for nominating. So I know that they would like to have somebody from Leon County. We've presented a few candidates to them to consider. As far as the racial makeup of the board, you're correct. I don't have any control of it, but what I can tell you is that the CEO is incredibly aware of the comments of the CRT, and they're extremely committed to diversity. So their recruiting efforts for new board members, that's a high priority for them. One of the things that's really interesting is that the PACE state leadership is incredibly diverse. The people who are actually running the corporation on day-to-day management, but the board of trustees has had a hard time kind of figuring that out. So they're committed, they're trying, they're aware. They also, if I could just add to that, another big issue for them is that because their numbers are statewide, the number of girls that they serve who are Latina is pretty high. So that's also one of their priority areas too.
Other questions?
I have one final one. Another comment from last year had mentioned your 6-year comprehensive study. And since I wasn't on this team last year, I don't really know when the 6th year will be, but it kind of sounded like it was soon. Would you like to update us on that?
They're actually in the process right now of gathering all of the data that came in from the girls who were in the program group, the girls who were not eligible, who did not come into PACE. So They've done some preliminary data. One of the early findings was that our girls have a higher rate of high school graduation in the day program than girls who do not come in, but they're not releasing the statistics right now because it's still in the process of being evaluated.
Thanks.
Kelly, is there
I have a question.
Go on.
Fields. Is that the same as the outreach coordinator? Is that what's the difference?
No, the outreach coordinator is a portion of Crystal Avalos' salary, who's sitting right over my shoulder. The transition and intake counselor is a separate position and a separate grant.
Did that answer your question, Lauren?
Yeah, mostly. I guess I'm not counselor is versus a coordinator in terms of like for grants.
Okay, I'm sorry. I thought that you were asked. So the outreach counselor does counseling for girls who don't attend the school. So hopefully I made that clear in the grant. If I didn't, that's a giant fail. The transition and intake counselor serves girls who graduated from the school.
Okay. Clarifying that.
Yes.
Other questions from the team? Kelly, could you tell us what's most essential for you in terms of funding of this program? If you did not get all the funding, how would that affect you?
I mean, it's currently funded at like 1/8 of her salary or a little bit more than that. So we would go back to serving the same number of girls that we do now. I think she went 1 over in this last year. We're going to hit the number this current year, and next year we'd be able to go up with the increase in funding. So we would just go back and do exactly what we're doing now. Does that answer your question?
It does. It does. Thank you.
If we didn't receive any funding at all, we would close the program.
Okay. Any other questions from the team? Kelly, could you just tell the team what would be crucial for them to know, or what you'd like for them to know when they go to deliberate in terms of funding?
Yeah, the community is not well right now. People are in a lot of trauma. The need for supportive assistance for girls is at an all-time high, boys too, but our specialty is girls. I think more than any other organization in the community, we're the ones that are the most uniquely situated to be able to provide services for those girls. Ultimately, what I would like to see we're seeking other kinds of funding for it, is a full outreach program with a couple of therapists working in the community, because they're hurting. They not only have the same issues they were already dealing with, often bullying, issues that are happening in their homes, but now they're dealing with a lot of trauma in the community, and it's just stacking on to the girls, it's just piling on them. And so our grant can help, and we can take the girls that come to us through usually somebody who knows about PACE, and they call us and say, can you help this girl? If we tried to actually advertise this program, we would never be able to serve the number of girls that come to us, because the need is so high right now. The girls are hurting, and their job in their life. And what we know about the girls in outreach, some of them don't need to come to the center, and we can serve them by just providing gender responsive and strength-based and trauma-informed therapy to those girls. Some of those girls actually do need to come into the center. So the program can be a gateway for them to actually come in and get even greater services. It's a very important program, and it needs to be really 3 times bigger than what we have it at right now. It's like a finger in the dike, basically. We're just trying to help the people that come to us.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Okay, we thank you, Kelly, and team.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye.
See her because she's having some fan issues that's affecting her ability to be videoed present with us. So she will start the meeting. So great to see everyone again.
For 22 years, and the rest of the team will introduce themselves now.
Dr. Fields, you were muted, so can you start over? I'm sorry.
Oh, boy. All right, I understand I was muted, so I'm starting over again. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I'm Anika Fields. I'm the Director of Counseling Services at FAMU, and I've been with this review process for 22 years, and I'll let the rest of the team introduce themselves.
I am Nancy O'Farrell. I am retired, but I am currently the Volunteer Executive Director for NAMI Tallahassee, which is the local affiliate of the National Alliance on Mental Illness. And this is my 5th year serving as a team member.
My name is Rachel Oliver. I represent Career Source Capital Region, and I've been a part of the review team for 3 years.
My name is Shannon Roberts. I'm a community advocate. I've been with the review process for 3 years.
My name is Shonda Davis. I am with Capital Medical Society, the We Care Network, and this is my 2nd year on the review team.
Hi, I'm Arun Dhanarajan with Big Bend Homeless Coalition, and I've been with this with the CHSP review team for 2 years now.
Hi, my name is Lauren Manders. I'm a grants officer at FSU Office of Sponsorship Administration. I've been with the CHSP Citizens Review team for 2 years now. I will be your timekeeper today as well. So if you would just introduce your name, yourself by your name and your title with the organization, and then we'll get started with our 20-minute question and answer session.
I'm Jackie Malone, Executive Director of Breon for 20 years. And Shirley is sitting here with me.
I'm Shirley O'Rear. I'm the Assistant Executive Director, and I've been with Breon for 21 years.
I'm Cal Melton. This is Cal Melton. I'm the board president.
And I'm Adriana Bush. I'm the bookkeeper, and I have Leanne Murphy with me here as well.
Just a reminder, when you're not presenting, please mute yourselves, and when you get ready to present, unmute yourselves, okay? Thank you very much.
Question in terms of how it's affected your implementations of the program, or how it's affected the people that you serve, how it's affected you financially.
Okay, this is Jackie. I didn't hear the first part of the question. It cut off. I assume you're talking about the COVID-19.
Yes.
Okay. We have not lost any services or deliverables. Everything is continuing modified. We take daily temperature checks with a log for staff and residents. We're using CDC guidelines for sanitizing, distancing, masks, etc. If an incident occurs, we will quarantine that individual. Of course, make sure they get medical help and all that. Our board on the going forward, the resiliency part, our board is very strong this year. Fundraising has increased, and the board is very engaged. Cal Melton, as you just met, is the board president. And so fundraising for financial security has been at the top of the list, as well as redoing our strategic plan. And so Breon remains stable and diligent during this crisis, and are just very watchful.
Okay, thank you. Questions from the team?
I've got a financial question. Just looking at your program budget for last year versus the current and proposed year, you've got an increase of about 36,000. Can you speak to that?
Adriana, please.
Can speak to that. Can you hear me? Okay. So we, through the board's increased involvement and just increase in fundraising and through other grants, Breon has been able to secure some additional funding that we've been able to use to help with some operational costs. Historically, CHSP has always covered the salaries for the staff of the Breon House, and we've had to rely heavily on other donations and grants to get through the operational stuff. So we were able to find an increase in those and doing some much needed improvements to the residents.
Let me add, this is Jackie again, reiterate that all CHSP dollars go towards salaries, which does not cover 100% of our salaries, but it is critical that we have this funding to stay open.
Other questions? Ms. Malone, you said that, I think that was you speaking, you said that if you did not get this funding, then you could not stay open?
I don't see how we could run the program with, you provide at least 55% of the funding for the program. And some of the other dollars that we have currently that you're seeing there and that we're projecting, our building is now 24 years old. Once we bought it in '96, and issues maintenance and replacement of primary equipment and so forth is coming due. We've had to replace 4 huge air conditioning units at $20,000 a piece, for example. So we have to keep this a safe place for families to reside, and air conditioning is one of those things, a roof, so. And anticipated expenses for maintenance and other operational things. You all don't buy any supplies. You only pay for some salaries. We also, they are underwriting one of the salaries. The other grants are. And these are not necessarily recurring. We know we've got one more year, but beyond that, we don't know. So this is why the improvements are being done so that does not duplicate in any way the dollars that we need from you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just to further that on the salaries, I've noticed from prior year to the proposed year, there's some decreases in some salary positions. So just curious about that and how you guys are doing with retaining staff and turnover.
We maintain 80–90% retention of staff, and I may need Adriana to see if maybe we have some program sharing positions that, allocated differently this year. Adriana, I'm just guessing, can you chime in on that?
Yes, we did have some other programs, and there was one staff that her time was split between two programs, and she's now devoting a little bit more time toward another program. So more of her salary is being allocated to that other program. So I don't think there's a reduction in hours or service hours by the majority of the staff. It was just that one employee who was an administrative position that's getting moved somewhere else.
Right. Let's see, am I on? I don't know if I turned myself on or off.
You're on.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Jackie. Yeah, and does that I'm looking at the wrong page. That includes compensation and benefits, correct? On that line, and we have some people who've gone on to carry their own insurance, so that would have affected it too. For example, maybe a spouse, they went with their spouse's insurance or some other option.
Other questions from the team?
This is Lauren. I have a question. So you're asking totally for salaries, which is understandable. Is the majority of your effort in the Brehon House program? I know you have multiple programs.
The staff we're charging are 100% to that, are all working in that program. There's a little bit, of my salary in there because I do hands-on there too, direct services. So it's direct service, direct contact with clients. Remember, we're open 24 hours a day, so we have to have night staff too, and weekends and holidays. Yeah, I'm not sure I answered your question.
Mostly, it sounds like it's the most time-intensive program of the programs that Brehon has.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
Other questions? Should I take the silence as no? Ms. Malone, is there anything that you feel we need to know and to help us in terms of making our decision?
Brehon opened this program at the request of the city and the faith-based community as a pilot program in the early 90s. And it was so successful in changing lives and in getting people on a positive path that we've continued the program ever since. And there is no other body and nobody else is doing this program in the whole Central Panhandle. There's not another place dedicated to house and transition homeless pregnant women between Jacksonville, Pensacola, and Orlando. So the critical need is here. We've proven that over and over again as we remain full. And we do case manage people who inquire here but either don't fit our program or we don't have space for them. We help them find a place too. So we feel a critical gap that nobody else addresses.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. See you soon, Cal. Okay, guys. You have finished your day of a site visit. So you know that make sure that you go that you completely fill out your assessment guide so that you'll be ready for decision making next week. One scenario I kept seeing repeated on this team, that even though agencies were asking you for additional money, they were putting NA in that question that specifically asked them to justify the need for additional money. Here's your reality, because if folks did not fill that section out, that means they did not provide you any justification, okay? That's a mandatory requirement. So you've got to deal with that reality when you start allocating funding for and making recommendations, okay?
Okay. That makes a lot of sense.
Could I ask a question, Pat?
Of course.
In past years, we've had a team member, various and different people that I've served with, that real thorough drill down of the budget part, who's kind of taken a little bit of the burden off the rest of us about really looking at the numbers and sussing them out in all different ways. Who's doing that with this team, if anyone?
Arun, he's your accountant on this team.
Okay.
So hopefully, so that'll be your job to really look at the budgets, Arun, so that looking at the budgets, looking at the fiscal, you've got several pieces of fiscal information per agency. You got their audit, for example. That's important, 990. You also have their, even the first Form 1 gives you overall agency budget and what percentage of that total budget is used for fundraising and administrative overhead costs. So the ratio that we, in acceptable standards for most nonprofits, is under 25% or less, but under 25%. If it's high, that's another point of information. It may be a reason for that, but it's a point of information. You also have 3 years of budget worksheets that shows a trend, the budgetary trends for a program. You can look at that program budget, for example, and see, are they relying 100% on CHSP funding to sustain the agency, or is the agency securing other resources to support that program? That speaks to sustainability, because if a program is dependent on one funding source, then it's a lot more less stable. Because if you lose that one funding source, you lose the whole program. So you have the budget information and the budget worksheets, and then you have the CHSP funding requests itself. So again, did they clearly distinguish why they're asking for funding? I'm going to ask Lauren to take a look. Lauren, your job, I want to give you a special job as a grant reviewer, that particularly if agencies are requesting substantial increases of money, did anything in the program description and in particularly the measurement framework, did it justify the need for additional funding? So for example, if they are getting 40,000 and they're serving 40 people right now, and the program is pretty much the same, and they're proposing to serve 40 people in the upcoming 2 years, but they're asking you to increase their budget by 100% or even triple that budget, does the application itself substantiate or justify that increase? So that's, Lauren will take a look at every program on this team in answering that question. Again, with Arun, so therefore you do have that budget request. And one thing I'm gonna be real clear with you guys about, again, we gave all agencies an additional month to complete their applications once they knew COVID-19 was here and a part of our realities. So folks had an opportunity to do that. But it is a mandatory requirement that if you are asked a budgetary question in the application, that your response is a fiscal response. A narrative response to a fiscal question is not appropriate. It's not adequate. It's not giving you any information. Okay. If you don't have a breakdown, for example, if you have just salaries as a category, I probably reiterated this 1,000 times over the years with agencies as well as you guys when I do the training, is that you must break that down. What positions? Why is that salary needed? If you also gotta do an analysis. If they're asking you for the fund a program and to fund a position, but the position is already being paid for, or you double paying for that same position? Because you can only, no matter how many tasks the city gives me, which I wish they would, no matter how many additional tasks they give me, I'm a salaried person. I can only make one salary. That's it. Now, I would love for them to pay me extra every time they gave me an extra duty and task. But so you've got to deal with those making those fiscally sound decisions with those programs. That's very critical. Any other questions or comments or concerns or any comments? Lauren?
I mean, I'm glad you spoke to that specific issue because that's what popped up for this, like several groups this year, is that they were just asking for salary, but then I couldn't, even if they put the percentage FTE or whatever it was, I couldn't, it seemed like they were not top loading, but just loading an extra burden onto this one program to cover a salary for maybe other work.
Right.
And that doesn't make, like, that doesn't make sense to me. That's not justifiable unless the actual program they're asking to be funded, it takes more time. You know?
Right. Or that staff position is assigned to that specific program. That's what they do all the time. The other thing I noticed too, sometimes you guys were given numbers of clients served by the program, but if you go into the demographics, it's inconsistent.
Yeah.
And so I heard sometimes several numbers being thrown out by the same organization. So how many people were actually being served? This is sometimes, that's the only, unfortunately, the reality, the only document that is certifiable, is certified is the application. So if it's not in the application, then you've got to decide, okay, does that make sense? If you hear something verbally that's not in the application or is a direct contradiction to the information provided in the application. So those are kind of, you got to make those critical decisions about programs, about funding, because you will, as you know, have very limited funding. And so we got to be about trying to sustain the most important programs that have the capacity to meet the growing demands and needs in this community, because you're dealing with the next 2 years and the impact that all of this is having on our communities, on our community overall, and on our various neighborhoods. Any Madam Chairperson, any advice or comments you would like to leave with your team?
Basically, just repeating what you said, so I won't repeat what you said. But I do think is really, really crucial that even though we've reviewed the applications, we have a whole week that we go back and review the applications again, along with the information that we have now that we didn't have when we were reviewing them before.
Right.
That's always very important to do, and very, it actually helps a lot because, and if we did it quickly, I know that there've been times where I would wait 5 days and there's 2 more days left and I go back and review. If we do it now, it's easier because you remember more. Your notes don't seem so messed up and jumbled now as they would a few days from now.
Nancy?
I was just going to say, my question about the budget did not mean to imply that we shouldn't all be looking at the budget.
I understood your question.
Okay.
I totally understood it. When you're saying that that's why we try to put you a finance person or accounting person on the team, because they can take it to a different level. All of you should look at it like Nancy is reminding us, but it's just a different level that Arun will look at the budgets, and he'll look at it comprehensively, all the fiscal information that is provided for that given agency.
I think every year I've done this, the finance program has presented something really important that I never would have found.
Right.
That's why I asked the question. I'm going, please say there's somebody that's our safety net.
Okay.
Okay.
You hear that, Arun? You got a lot of people depending on.
That's a lot of pressure. Thanks, Nancy.
Yeah. That's why you have social workers on your team. You have a grant specialist from FSU, Ms. Lauren. She is a guru. And one thing about grant specialists, they've learned how to look at all of the information and integrate it, including the fiscal components of the grant. You know, because when you turn in a federal grant, they don't play. They don't have you will never speak to them or see them. They are simply going to score you. And if you have incomplete sections, you won't be funded. It's very simple in their world. So she'll look at it from that comprehensive perspective from a grant person, because when they submit grants on behalf of FSU, they've got to make sure everything is synchronized in that application, that it all makes collective sense, right? Right. And with that, hope you guys have a great rest of the week. Mondays are the toughest day for all of us to start out this early in the morning, but thank you guys so much. And we look forward to hopefully please do your homework. I can't reiterate the demand for services in this community is going to really hit us, and the limited human resources we have, it's going to really impact us. So please do your homework, because we have to make the most sound decisions. Again, we represent the people who are not at that table, who will be dependent on these services. Okay. So with that, have a wonderful remaining part of this week. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Thank you.